This is the Gorgies. This is a podcast where my friends Oats, Saturn, Sara, and myself all get together and we discuss everything that happened in the year 2022.
The Gorge is brought to you by Patreon. That's patreon.com/thegorge, where for just $5 a month you gain access to not one but two, stop laughing, not one but two podcasts. $5 gets you Takeout, a monthly commentary track where Ben and I decide we don't feel like putting in any effort, so instead we watch something and talk over it. And $2 gets you Praetorian Pals, a series where the four people in this episode actually
where we decide that we don't want to make content.
That's
and
right.
We just ramble over while grinding an FF14.
That's correct. Where we pick an MSQ roulette and then we just talk and say some of the most insane bullshit you'll ever pay $2 to hear. So you're welcome. $2 also gets you the entire back catalog of That's Hell You're Walking Into, a series where Ben asked me various and sundry questions about the Fate Stay Night extended universe and the horrors contained within, and I did my best to answer them. That's a good show still after all this time, so you should go and listen to it. Yeah. Thank you very much. That's patreon.com/thegorge. My mojo's been thrown off because we have additional people here. You know?
Yeah,
I feel comfortable saying that if you spend $2 a month to listen to Praetorian Pals, that'll be the most wasted $2 since you went to that gas station where they illegally sell the Arizona green teas for more than they're supposed to.
But
now what you should do is you should get one of those illegally price-jacked Arizona green teas and drink it through the entirety of listening to Praetorian Pals.
that's right.
Take a sip every time Sara or Oats start laughing at a joke Saturn makes.
That's right. When it's the dumbest joke you've ever heard in your entire life.
That's correct.
It's a great show.
Speaking of dumb jokes.
Oh no, it's the Gorgies, a podcast, our fucking award series with the worst name ever that won't go away.
First, I have to get to thank you to Seven the Chronicler, Brown the Bun, Rodsters, Ben's Delivery Service, Palma Power, Jathy, Drata, Steel Condor, That Guy Red, Holy Star 64, Neon Hellcat, Rosie 1/2, Saturn, hey, it's you, Alice Marks, Shia, Magus, Jack, Liam Lane, and that other one dude.
Yay!
Thanks, y'all. We're going to bring you
some.
something special this time, because this episode of The Gorgies is sponsored. Not monetarily.
Oh, I was really surprised. You said it's sponsored. I'm like, I wasn't informed.
No, yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, Ben. But my understanding is that we are doing this currently pro bono with the hope that our sponsor will pay us later.
This is you know how like when Ukulele's Kickstarter was going on, they were like, one of our stretch goals is we'll get Grant Kirkhope to write a new DK rap for our game. And Grant Kirkhope went, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I did not agree to this.
This is what we're doing with our sponsor.
That's right.
This year's special edition, a normal edition, I guess, but very special, The Gorgies, is sponsored by Final Fantasy XIV. Currently with a free-to-play trial up to level 60 that includes the award-winning expansion pack, Heavensward.
Oh, God.
Yeah, as is tradition for the Gorgies, and any sensible podcast award show, it's going to be about games that came out this year, or that came out late last year that Ben and Sara didn't get to last year in time for their Gorgies then.
Here's the thing. Go ahead, Ben.
So here's how this is going to work, is that we have a list of categories, a list of awards to give out, and we have a couple nominees. We have 4 nominees for each category. And we will have a little bit of discussion about those nominees, and then we will vote. And in the event of a tie, either a 4-way tie or a 2-way tie, the tiebreaker will default go to Final Fantasy XIV.
That's right.
In addition to our 4 nominees for everything, we also have a Final Fantasy XIV nominee. And it will be discussed as something that could win one of these awards. And, 2021, late 2021, before or very close to last year's Gorgies, and before either of Ben or Sarah started playing FF14, there was a whole glut of new FF14 content ripe to be awarded.
That's right.
In various Game of the Year adjacent categories. So I'm looking forward to seeing what relevant current Final Fantasy XIV content is going to come up in any of these numerous wonderful categories.
You remember, Ben?
Yes.
You remember how, like, at the beginning of the year, or like at the end of last year, we were like, we're gonna change the format a little to allow for playing other video games?
Yes.
And then on December 31st of 2021, I was like, well, I'm sick and I can't go to any New Year's Eve parties, so what if I played Final Fantasy XIV and finally gave it a shot?
Yeah, I remember. I like to keep track of all the games that I've started or finished per year. My 2022 list is about 3/4 the length of my 2021 list, and I'll be honest, a lot of those I shoved into the last month of the year.
Yeah.
That's correct.
That's great.
I wonder what happened at the very beginning of 2022 that might have interrupted Ben and Sarah's normally replete and diverse gaming schedules, as it were.
Oops.
Before we put too much blame on Sarah and or Ben, it should be noted that because when Endwalker first came out, they started crashing the servers and locked it from new players purchasing. So I ahead of time snuck in a copy of Endwalker for Sarah.
That's right. Oh my god, it's been so long. Yeah,
it is kind of my fault.
It is entirely your fault. That's right. It was literally like the night before.
The night before Christmas went all through the house.
Literally the night before
Yoshi P got on the megaphone and said, "Get the fuck out."
It was like right before they were going to stop selling it to new players. And I was like, well, I'm thinking of starting it. And Oats is like, here, I'll get it for you as a Christmas present. And you're right. This is all your fault. My God.
You did this.
You did this.
Well, whenever we arrive at the conclusion of this evening's show, we know who is going to win the ultimate prize of getting the other three to pay for a deep web hitman to kill them.
Yay!
Just what I always wanted.
It's a Christmas miracle. Oh, God. Okay, hold on.
Right.
Ben, kick us off. How are we even going to do this?
I'll just announce everything, and then we'll just discuss it briefly.
Sounds good.
So, our first nominee, or our first category of the evening, is Best Stage, and the nominees for this are the Dominion of Hate from Live Alive, Leyndell, the Royal Capital from Elden Ring, S23 Sierpinski from Signalis, and Marathon from Neon White. And our tiebreaker is Kugane Castle from Final Fantasy XIV.
Nice.
This is also the category where we're going to include honorable mentions.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So we have these in a couple categories. They're not evenly distributed, but for things that we want to shout out that can't qualify for Gorgies because they're not recent enough and also not FF14. So the honorable mention this time around is for Millennium Tower in Yakuza 7.
Yes.
So let's talk about our nominees a little bit.
Yeah. Tell me about these. Tell me about some nominees. Tell me some stories about video game levels.
I like the Dominion of Hate. Me and Ben played that. It's it's a weird culmination of one of my favorite things that I personally like is when you get to do an old stage again, but with new context and with things changed to make it, I guess, more exciting and to keep it fresh. And the Dominion of Hate does that by removing almost everything that was there to begin with because you killed everybody.
Yeah, it is a very cool. It is the final dungeon of Live Alive, and it takes place in one of the eras. I'm not going to go too deep into spoilers because it's very impactful when it happens, but it is one of the areas that you go to in the regular game. But yeah, it is completely devoid of all people.
Ooh, okay.
I see.
And it is also it's great because you finally get to form a party out of the individual characters you've been playing as in their own side stories and whatnot. It's Live Alive did not do a party system like by design for a lot of things. Every couple chapters, like there was one character that like would have an assistant, but they were usually either
like a guest star party member.
Like level locked or moveset locked.
Okay.
And they were just kind of there to like augment the rest. Like the only one that really had like full party was like Prehistory.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But so and it's great to finally just get like a 4-man team out of these characters that you've really gotten attached to. It is a fantastic dungeon. Everyone has their own personal dungeon where they can can go and like get a little bit more of closure. Their individual moves get to shine more in it. It's awesome.
It's like, so like the first 7 chapters are just like standalones by themselves, and they're kind of like short little bite-sized things. And then the 8th chapter is an entire act 2 in and of itself. It's massive. So it's kind of it's a nice like last hurrah send off.
Okay.
So, good vibes.
Nice.
So what is
the Royal Capital? I didn't play Elden Ring.
Yeah, I did not do Elden Ring.
So I believe Oats is the one who put that one in this category, though Oats and I both played Elden Ring. So would you like to explain it, or?
I mean, I guess the good reason for putting it in there is that it is both the most Dark Souls and the most Bloodborne stage in Elden Ring.
To give a very brief explainer and teaser, Lane Dell is going to show up again in another category later in the show. But Lane Dell is essentially this sprawling, impossible to navigate castle metropolis that is just kind of falling apart inside of itself, and it's like has this horrible, impossible, like maze-like construction full of things that just want to kill you, and the illusion that people still live there, and it's just very like Dark Souls has a lot of very big and menacing and confusing environments, but there's something about Lane Dell where it is laid out in a very open, kind of flat way that really gives you the impression from any distance, including when you're inside it, that it is just the most massive place you've ever been in. And every part of that massive place is stacked with like 100-foot marble walls that feel like they're trying to crush you.
Right.
It somehow manages to feel like you are way too small for this place, but also you are way too confined in it.
It's like,
and it has that while still being like the functional facsimile of like a castle town, like you'd find in any other like JRPG almost. Like there's a big main road, there's guards, there's kind of like what appears to be the remnants of a parade. There's like the big tree in the middle of town or like right outside town or whatever, and like but it's all arranged in this extremely exaggerated like angelic horror kind of way.
And I think the other part is that it's one of those ideal kind of like you can see it from most places on the map, and it's big and foreboding, and you go inside and it is still just as big and foreboding. It's not like a separate entity that has been crunched down like Diamond City in Fallout 4. It's like a big ass fucking city that clearly houses about like 600,000 to 1 million people.
Oh wow. Awesome.
Gotcha. Okay.
It would be like if you had Diamond City and then also all of exterior Boston, and then that entire area was like a level 50 to 90 encounter zone.
Nice. Okay.
Okay.
Very cool.
Very cool. It's horrible and scary, and I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us about the Signalis one, Saturn.
Oh, S23 Sierpinski is, depending on how you look at it, kind of the main setting of Signalis, and also sort of the backbone for like its first act. It's like, admittedly, when we first did this category, I think it was like it wasn't best stage; it was best something else.
It was best dungeon. We originally, but we were like, dungeon is such a weird like concept. The concept of dungeon is kind of like
It's very specific.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so S23 Sierpinski I mentioned this because like it's something I put in originally when this was best dungeon, because like I think more than a stage, like because this does kind of like it is split sort of into multiple, I would call them multiple stages.
Mm-hmm.
But S23 Sierpinski is this wonderful fusion of like, okay, here is a believably laid out like 8-section labor camp, basically.
Yeah.
It is explicitly like a prison labor camp, but you know, people live there and things like, and it's supposed to have a functional layout. And part of why I put it in here is because it's like sort of it's the backdrop for like the first act of that game, and it's this massive, really believably arranged locale that still is laid out in a way to be like rife for the kinds of survival horror exploration stuff you'd get in something like Resident Evil or Silent Hill.
Right.
And it strikes this balance in a really interesting way where you can see how this place is supposed to work in a normal day-to-day. But you still have to go about it in the survival horror way because everything's all fucked up and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But it creates this... I recommend it because it's this really, like, remarkably rendered out place with a lot of interesting details and color, and feels really lived in. And it also feels like the version of it that you're going through is extremely wrong. Because it's broken the things there that should work. And I think it's really compelling as sort of the first act setting of that survival horror game.
Yeah, absolutely. We watched that part with you on stream.
Yes, I got through about 2/3 of that. Like 2/3 of what would be called the first act of that game.
Okay. Yeah, and it's very interesting. It's very just like you said, believably laid out. But like kind of suited for like it's just good level design where it's keeping things in mind of like doubling back and the tension of knowing like, oh, I've got to go down this particular hallway with very little ammo, that kind of thing, right? Like standard Silent Hill kind of horrors.
Yeah,
it
has a really effective stage separation with sort of this main elevator that there's a mechanic there where it requires a key card to use it because it's like your identification, and you having access to that key card and then having access to that key card taken away from you is kind of how it separates out the levels within S23 Sierpinski without telling you that it's doing that.
Yeah.
So it feels like you've been stuck in like just another part of the area when in reality you're kind of in like the next level. And it's very coy about how it does that. And I think it really divides it up in a really interesting way.
And and of course, I don't know if we talk. Let me look at our categories. I don't think there's anything for like aesthetic goodness, but like the navigation between level, like it needs be said about Signalis is that its presentation is fucking stellar, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is to me the best looking game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that taste is subjective, but like, Jesus Christ.
It looks great.
Really good aesthetics, yeah.
It fakes. It doesn't have pre-rendered backgrounds, but it fakes that extremely well.
Yeah.
In a way that like sets all of my neurons on fire and makes me feel the good feelings, right? So yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Oats.
Lance's marathon.
So I'm gonna try and be as succinct about this one as possible. My least favorite thing in Metroidvanias and in like Legend of Zelda style adventure games is they will continue to give you tools of traversal or weapons that allow you to utilize puzzles to get through places that they eventually forget for the final level. Like, like in Twilight Princess, you only use the ball and chain like twice, and the spinner a handful of times once it happens to be in the overworld.
Right.
Marathon is the opposite of that, where it is normally these levels are less than a minute and a half tops. This is a 7-minute long thing your first time around, where you're using everything you have in order to traverse a massive sprawling stage.
Oh, that's awesome.
Possibly
I love those.
Yeah,
So for context for Marathon, it is, I think, stage 95 in a game with 97 like normal stages. The average like ace time, or like the functionally perfect dev time for most stages in the game, is between like 20 and 40 seconds. The ace time for Marathon is, if I recall correctly, nearly 3 minutes.
Wow.
And it is the stage at the end of the game that says, okay, you are going to show us that you know how to use every single tool at your disposal. And it is also like a very execution heavy stage. There's very little room for error. And so you have this incredible test of like, okay, you've been playing this game for like 12 hours now. How much of it do you understand? And whenever you first... It was my experience with it too, where you have to redo it enough, like just trying to get through it at all, that you will kind of master it as you go. And overcoming this huge challenge and getting an ace rating at the end just makes you feel like God.
It's kind of like its equivalent of like a Kaizo level, basically.
The entire game is kind of made of Kaizo levels, but this is like the super Kaizo level.
Okay.
This is a grueling, long-ass level with absolutely no checkpoints. You do it in one go, or you don't do it at all.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's nuts. Okay.
This is in a game that is full of Kaizos. This is the getting over it by Ben Foddick.
Yeah.
Because I didn't play, but I watched Oats. I watched you play a lot of Neon White. So like I have a feel of like how fast the game moves on its own. I can't imagine doing all that without checkpoints. That's insane.
It's so
fun.
And
it's made up for the fact that like the levels aren't that long in general, where like you wouldn't necessarily need a checkpoint for most levels, because like the estimated completion time, if you do it right, is like 30 seconds. For Marathon, though, the estimated completion time, if you do it right, is 2 or 3 minutes, and so it's like, oh fuck, it's a doozy. There's some stages that are longer, but it's like they're like weird boss fight stages that aren't really conventional anyway, and the fact that they take longer is just kind of like, it's more set piece than it is like actual challenge. But Marathon is like the extremely extended segment of just like the most difficult challenge the game has to offer you.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
it's cool.
It's good.
Cool.
Now, we all know what Kugane Castle is like.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
We don't.
the problem with this one is that it's actually really hard to choose, but
There's a lot of good stages in FF14. We did choose one that's from 2017.
look, it's fine. The problem is that I don't actually... Well, alright, hold on. The problem is that I don't actually like most Event Walker's dungeons, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, no. Well, the thing is, and we say this all the time while we're playing it, it's like, Stormblood has really good dungeons.
Yeah, the problem is that Stormblood has the best dungeons in the game.
Yeah.
Hands down is the thing.
Yeah, I broadly agree with that,
Yeah. And I don't really like any of Endwalker's dungeons that much.
When you get the Shadowbringers is when they start, like, introducing some more complex mechanics, but also, like, making the enemies spongier in general.
Yeah. The biggest hurdle about Endwalker and Shadowbringers is that HP is just way too high for it not to be a challenge, because it's not a challenge, you know.
Yeah, it just takes time.
It feels like the balance of the game is such that in dungeons especially, it feels like there is a linear enemy scaling when your damage output potential doesn't do that, because the longer you go in the game, you get like they realistically they understand there's a limit on how many things they can put in a fucking hotbar, right? And so as you go on, you get less tools. But the enemies keep getting more powerful, and so by the time you get to Endwalker, you have a lot of dungeons that are just kind of slugs, and so, like, Shadowbringers is the one where it's like, okay, everything here is, like, not breezy, but it takes as much time as you could possibly want it to.
Right.
Kugane Castle. Let's talk about why Kugane Castle gets the special mention.
Because Kugane Castle, because one, it has, I was thinking, like, I really like Alamigo a lot, like the dungeon, not the area in Final Fantasy XIV. But like Alamigo is good, but I don't know. There's something that's just really fun about it. It has the same like thing of Kugane of Alamigo, but it's harder, but like in a fun way. I guess
It's got
Remind me,
really
is
exciting
this-
music.
Is this the MSQ dungeon, or is this the one with?
this is the bonus dungeon. This is the one. With,
Okay. Yes.
yeah,
Okay. That's what
that's
I was
why.
wondering. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
also
Yeah.
part of why is that it ends with a fight against Yojimbo, which also whips ass.
Yeah.
It's a really great dungeon fight.
It's an extremely good dungeon fight. All of the boss fights in Kugane Castle are good. It uses the same really good track that Doma Castle uses,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the best songs in the game. And the other... Oh, go ahead.
I think it's one of the only dungeons in the game that has a 4-encounter pull.
Yeah, that's actually why I like Stormblood dungeons the most. And part of like why Shadowbring, like I was trying to think of like dungeons in Shadowbringers and Endwalker because they're more relevant, that like really light my neurons on fire is hard, and I was having a hard time.
Yeah, because by the time you get the Shadowbringers is when they like really hammer on like the
2 pulls.
hey, a dungeon should be 2 pulls, break, 2 pulls, boss fight, 2 pulls, break, etc. Shadowbringers is like Stormblood was airing towards that, but you'd still have the occasional dungeon where you get like, okay, 3 pulls.
Yeah.
2.5.
Kugane has the weird situation of the pull before, I want to say, not the last boss, but the second to last boss, maybe?
The middle boss.
Where there's a segment where you can do, like, you can pull 4 encounters at once and, like, almost guarantee get your party extremely
yeah,
light.
but
Yeah.
that's the fun part. Like, that's the fun part of Alamigo.
The
And-
other fun part is the gimmick of half of the enemies in the second leg all have a self-destruct.
Yeah, it's great.
It is a huge one, also.
It has a huge AoE, and it's just spicy and dangerous and fun,
Yeah.
and like, you know,
The aesthetics are great. It's a fun, unique design for like its area.
Peak high risk, high reward.
Yeah,
exactly.
The boss fight with Yojimbo is one of the fucking best.
Yeah, and it uses the really, like I said, it uses the extremely sick ass, modern, traditional Japanese rock song. I don't know that Doma Castle uses. That's so fucking good.
It also uses the mechanics from the fucking gambling minigame
Yeah.
in the Golden Saucer where you're
Yeah.
trying to dodge the bamboo things.
Uh-huh.
Like, it uses like the identical dog mechanic practically, and then I believe the Inoshika Cho mechanic is like a variant of how it's not like a towers mechanic or like a collapsing towers mechanic like the bamboo is, but like the placement mirrors that too, where it's like these kind of layered circles, or you have to position yourself according to like where the last AoE was and not where the
Yeah, it's really fun. It's a great dungeon. It's just a blast. All of any of Stormblood's dungeons
Kick ass.
could go in here, except for maybe Siren Song City is also really good because it's like weird and also difficult. I suppose I just like really difficult dungeons. Anyways, yeah, that's why Kugane Castle got the nom for me.
And yet you don't like Tower of Zot. Curious. I'm very intelligent.
I'm very intelligent. There is no difference between Tower of Zot and Kugane Castle.
Oh yeah,
whatsoever.
for sure.
Absolutely. No, there is.
I can't wait for Kugane Castle Ultimate, where Yojimbo just has the 3 sisters fight identically, but it's just Yojimbo.
No, please, anything but that.
We can fill the screen with more bullshit.
We can't. How long
hate
have we?
that.
It's already been 28 minutes. We gotta
Yeah.
talk. We gotta talk about these categories.
Okay.
Anyways, none of Endwalker's dungeons are good. Vote.
Well, first, Oats and I just really quick on talk about Millennium Tower.
Okay.
Yeah, the honorable mention. So Millennium Tower is the end stage for every single Yakuza game up until I think 5 or 6. I don't quite remember when they stopped doing it, but it's always like, oh fuck, we're going to have a battle on the top of Millennium Tower, just 2 guides shirtless and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then for 7, after like 2 games of just not doing it, period, they turn it into a bonus dungeon where you slowly crawl up a skyscraper, beating the shit out of people, like Shinra Tower.
Fantastic.
It's best thing in the world.
It kicks ass.
It's really great for Yakuza 7's specific pastiche of being the JRPG one.
Yeah.
Anyway, we should do votes for
I
best
vote.
stage.
Who? Oh, it's you. Vote first.
Fuck, I think I'm gonna do a marathon at this point.
All right, Saturn.
Come back to me after.
Okay, Sara.
I'm going to say S23 Serpensky.
Okay, I am gonna go with Lindell.
Okay.
You've put me in the unenviable position of having my lion's choice.
You have the power.
Of wonderful areas that I love. I am in this instance, I think. I am also going to say Serpensky.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, Marathon is a very close second because that stage whips ass. But much like every other thing I would give Signalis credit for, I've spent a lot more time thinking about S23 Serpensky.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot more layered narrative work going on there. And I feel like I have to give that some credit.
Yeah.
Especially because that's a game made by 2 people.
Wow. Oh wow, I didn't know that's how small the Signalis dev team is. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Impressive.
it seems with 2 votes,
Mhm.
Our winner for best stage goes to S23 Serpensky.
Fantastic.
Congrats.
Congratulations, Signalis. You won't get any other awards from any other major publications this year. But we love you.
But we'll give it to you.
So let's go from best stage, a very prestigious award, to our next category, biggest failure.
I love this category.
The nominees for these are Neon White from Neon White, Watanabe's father from Live Alive, Guybrush Threepwood from Return to Monkey Island, and Guel Jedurg from Gundam: The Witch from Mercury, with our FF14 tiebreaker being Quintus Cinna.
Now remind me, Quintus Cinna is the guy who shot himself in the bunker,
Yeah, that's
right?
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just making sure I'm on the right page.
Yeah.
Yeah, Quintus Cinna is the walking epitome of you didn't win.
Right.
All right, well, let's go through these one by one. I guess Oats deserves the distinction of telling us about Neon White from Neon White.
So, imagine Steve Bloom at the beautiful age of 21 and is a complete and total weeb who has managed to completely ruin his relationship with his father figure, his brother figure, his little sister figure, and his girlfriend.
Fantastic.
Of
And
course.
he still manages to get all of them to like him in the end out of pity.
I don't know if that qualifies him as a failure then.
I've heard.
I have some objections to calling him a failure, just in terms of he's a failure in the same way Harry Dubois is a failure, which is to say, incidentally.
Yeah.
However, a character in that game describes him as, and this is the one that rings out for me, and I remember it because during some discussion earlier this year, Chris Wolfhart from the Gigaboots podcast network mentioned it as being the standout characterization of Neon White. Also, another character calls him out as the kind of guy who, if a girl spat at him, he'd move his head to try and catch the spit in his mouth. And that is I think an accurate description of Neon White through every stage of the game, whether he is succeeding or failing.
Fantastic.
I've heard people like to associate Neon as the loser version of Spike Spiegel because of voice actor association, and I disagree with that.
It's more accurate to describe him as a prettier Harry Dubois.
Well, I think if you're going to compare him to a Steve Bloom character,
Uh,
the choice is Jamie from Megas XLR.
Oh.
I didn't.
I guess the difference is that he is still the protagonist. You know what I mean?
He's still the protagonist, and more importantly, he is very much a pastiche of Spike because he is a loser and he is a merc who tries to play it cool, as opposed to Jamie, who is a stoner in a PG show.
I actually think the Harry Dubois comparison works really well because
Yeah.
he's a very similar kind of dude where his being a failure is in some way tied to this, like, not spiritual depth, but, like, special human warmth that he has that most of the rest of the cast does not.
Mhm.
And he doesn't realize it until it's too late, much like Harry Dubois.
Yeah.
Next up is Watanabe's father from Life.
Who is a man who just lives to die.
Yeah, the bit character who mostly exists to perish. That's correct.
When the running gag is that you die every time you show up. What
No,
else?
it's you are the only one in this group who has played it besides me. Which one was your favorite?
Oh, I think my favorite is the one in Imperial China because it happens posthumously, and we see his son try to avenge him by doing the sickest fucking Hadoken in existence and missing entirely and hitting himself in the face.
That one is good.
Like father, like son.
Oh man, I love Shenmue.
My favorite is probably modern day, wherein one of the fighters that you go up against, because modern day is Street Fighter, one of the fighters you go against is a heel wrestler, a luchador heel wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And Watanabe's father heckles him from the crowd, and he gets out of the ring to kick the shit out of him, and then gets back in the ring.
That's what you love. And then Watanabe's father presumably died from those injuries off screen.
Yeah, presumably.
Of course.
Presumably.
You hear his son scream his name in vain.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ben, talk about Guybrush.
Well, Sarah, you've played Monkey Island.
I have played Monkey Island, but you specifically list Return to Monkey Island.
Well,
but I mean,
I'm very happy to tell you, Sarah, he didn't change one bit.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that.
Guybrush is still the exact same hapless, bumbling idiot he has always been.
Good
the
for
man
him.
has had zero character development.
No, absolutely has not changed one bit. We know men who have underwent character development, and they're all cowards, as they say.
He had 20, 30 years to think about his act, who he was, and, like, you know, changing with the times, and just refused completely.
That's correct.
The first thing that happens when you get control of Guybrush and you go back to Melee Island is the plot. The crux of the story is that Guybrush has feeling like his best days are behind him, and he wants to actually find out what the secret of Monkey Island is.
Right.
I noticed in what little I saw of that game that he is constantly informing people that he is looking for the secret of Monkey Island.
when you get to Melee Island and you get back to the Scum Bar, you talk to the three pirate lords, and you tell them that you're going to find the secret of Monkey Island, and they respond with, "Oh, you mean what LeChuck's doing?"
Yeah.
Okay.
And then immediately sets the tone.
I understand immediately.
That Guybrush has not changed.
Not even a little bit. Okay.
Absolutely not.
Good for him. And then finally,
Quell Jeddirk from Gundam, the Witch from Mercury.
our big stupid
Useless,
boy.
stupid man.
Our
Now,
stupid boy.
the only Gundam experiences I've ever had are G Gundam and 8th MS Team.
Okay. Wow.
The two
You truly
polar
read the
opposites
gamut.
of the genre, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know for sure if this is a thing, but does Gundam normally have a guy that just loses this often?
No.
No, they never have a jobber like this. If they do, it's like a specific Zaku, but it's not even like a manned one.
I haven't watched a ton of Gundam either. Like, I've seen G Gundam, I've seen Iron Blooded Orphans, G Witch, and like a couple, like some incidental parts of the OG series. No one jobs like Quell Jeddirk. And it's very funny because he starts the show in kind of this controlling position where he is ostensibly the top dueler in the schooler. which is why he is betrothed in marriage to the wonderful Miarina Rembrandt, as is his right as the top dueler. I want to say it's not in the first episode, but within like the first 2 episodes, not episode 0, not episode 1, but I think episode 2, the new girl in school, our protagonist, Soletta Mercury, just mops the floor with him so hard after multiple people cheated on his behalf to ensure his victory, that in the intervening several episodes, he gets disowned from his family and is also homeless on school campus.
And then gets kicked out of school.
Yeah, it's being currently the episode before the most recent one is the last one we watched. We haven't got around to watching the most recent episode yet, as of almost New Year's 2022. But currently he is on the verge of getting kicked out while currently living homeless in the school commons because he's not allowed to stay at his like fraternity anymore. And he doesn't have anywhere else to go because he got disowned. So he's just living like he has like a bindle practically. Like he's just homeless on school grounds cooking beans.
He is literally in a tent in the school commons cooking food on a portable camping grill.
That's correct.
I have to stress, like, for a series as diverse as Gundam, this has been what Gorge has been doing for the last several episodes.
Yeah.
Like, we constantly get, like, a tune into him, and he's just, like being vaguely keyed into school drama while eating a can of beans out in his illegal homeless camp. And I swear, it is the most Gundam has ever been like Twin Peaks.
Now remember, guys. Now remember, everyone. If you see a Gundam pilot in a tent, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't. Exactly. It's extremely funny every single time.
If you see Gorge shoplifting from the school cafeteria, no, you didn't.
If you see Gorge sleeping in the grass and he's shivering a little bit because it's cold, first off, no, you didn't. Second off, throw a blanket on that bad boy.
Give him a blankie. He's having a hard time.
Like, it's been a while since I watched G Gundam. I don't think there's a character that lost this hard.
No.
No one who lived to tell about it. That's for goddamn sure.
Yeah, no one who kept showing up.
Right.
Like, I think Argo Gulski didn't really get a whole lot of wins under his belt, or like the Canadian Gundam pilot didn't get a lot of W's.
But no, like, imagine if Argo Gulski lost in like episode 3 and then just kept showing up every episode.
To be like, I'm so sad I lost.
What if I lost more?
What if I just kept losing? And then at one point he tries to duel again and loses again.
Actually, no, I will say, I believe he actually has a really great win-loss record, aside from that one really embarrassing one.
Yeah.
But he keeps getting into fights for no reason, and his dad goes, knock it off.
I just realized that Gorge is a lot like an Ace Attorney prosecutor. In that they exist to go, I have a perfect win streak and have never been defeated, and Phoenix shows up and bumbles his way into a victory and then crushes them every subsequent time they go up against him.
So true.
Soletta is basically the Phoenix, right?
Yes.
I guess really she's Apollo Justice because she's red and has crippling social anxiety.
Yeah.
Crippling. Oh.
Okay.
Now we've if you've listened to our FF14 episodes, I personally got a kick out of Quintus Senna.
Extremely funny character. We don't want to. Hold on. Yeah, we're at 43 minutes. We'll not dwell on this too much. But Quintus Senna is a bumbling fascist who blows his brains out in a bunker.
Because he can't understand the concept of receiving charity gracefully.
That's correct. Extremely funny, wretched character. Probably like the most I've ever been stunned by a video game, and then the hardest I've ever laughed.
Yeah.
So, fantastic.
All right, let's get into the nominations for biggest, or I guess
voting.
Voting for biggest failure.
It's cool.
Sarah, you go first.
Cool.
Okay.
Oats.
Watanabe's father.
I will also vote for Watanabe's father. And Saturn?
I'm gonna vote for Ghoul, which means we have a 2v2 tie.
Fantasy 14 character win!
Which means it goes to Quintus Cinna by default.
Yeah!
I can't believe it. FF14 actually won something this show. I wasn't thinking it was gonna. Look,
No,
I'm sorry. Please continue to pass.
Yeah.
No, I did not. In fact, expect FF14 to win a single award this show. I'm sorry.
It is incredibly fitting, I think, that the only winner in the biggest failure category had to win by default.
That's correct.
That's correct.
That's a good point. Because if you win something, then by definition, you're not a failure anymore.
I would say, for what it's worth, Watanabe's father would be my second pick.
Mm-hmm.
Because Guybrush Threepwood can't be that much of a failure because he got another game.
That's right.
And Neon White can't be that much of a failure because he gets laid. So,
he got laid.
Well,
once.
Well,
that's fine.
So did Harry, ostensibly.
Well, probably. But, he's moving on to bigger and better things. And, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Neon White has gotten laid at least once in his life.
Mm.
Well, Jeddirk, sexless. Watanabe's father, if not for the fact that he's a guy's dad, I would assume that he also never lived long enough to fuck.
Let's keep the negative train rolling with worst father.
Yay!
There's some. Speaking of winners, there's some real winners in this category.
A lot of people really winning up in here.
Saturn, Oats, tell us about Professor Turo.
So, Professor Turo is the professor from Violet version of Pokemon, and Scarlet, you get a hot mom instead, who's also, I will say, even though we're nominating Turo here as a gender thing, I think Professor Sada also qualifies as worst father. In her respective entry, Professor Turo, and this is spoilers for Pokemon if you care. I guess I don't. It's Pokemon. There's a cool plot in this one, but also it's Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What if your professor scientist had a son, got too invested in his Pokemon experiment to properly
raise
his son
for 10 years,
and then also disappeared? And left his son, who he already didn't raise, to live alone while also taking care of his science experiment.
Oh no!
That's not good.
Oh no! That's a real piece of work.
And there's some other things there, but none of the other things there that are spoilers do anything to counteract the fact that this person got too wrapped up in Pokemon's experiments to raise their child. So yeah, that's Professor Turo.
He literally he Ash's dadded the rival character, but worse.
Great.
But worse because he's still a presence in the game.
He's a named character who's been there 2 miles away this entire fucking time.
Are you gonna come see me, Dad? No.
Oh, no?
I'm too busy with work. What are you doing? Working.
Okay.
We all know about Splinter.
We know about Splinter, except I guess Saturn doesn't. But
I know he's a rat who knows kung fu.
He's a kung fu rat, and he's extremely good in Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and also he sucks ass.
He's always been kind of a terrible father in one way or another, but generally he's always been regarded as the four turtles sensei first and father second. In the newest Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, he is a father first and a sensei second, and he's a really shitty layout.
Extremely bad dad.
Yeah, I noticed you're characterizing this as the first Splinter where he's a dad first, a master second. And this is the category for worst father.
Yeah, about that.
The thing is, he's still a pretty shitty father.
That's right.
He has an excuse for it, which is why he also appears in another category later on.
I say.
He is definitionally the DILF version of a hot couch guy. And he's not even a DILF.
That's right.
Well, he was.
Once upon a time.
Yeah.
Once upon a time before he got turned into a rat.
He got ratified.
That man got...
Like the Constitution, I got ratified.
That man got grossified.
I hate it here.
Anyway.
Anyway, next up is Watanabe's father for the 2-peat.
Oh shit, you were here again.
Which, he's on here mostly as a technicality because all he does is die.
Right.
It's really hard to be a good father when you are constantly getting killed in front of your child's eyes.
Usually for doing things that kind of like you had coming because you're being a jerk to a dude.
And also he does bring his son along for these like dangerous situations, like especially in Imperial or in Japan.
Yeah, in Edo, Japan, where he brings his son along to do a grand heist, and it's just the two of them against 100-man army.
Yeah,
it seems like not a great idea. I'll be perfectly honest.
Next
is Delling Rembrandt, also from Gundam: The Witch from Mercury. That Miorine girl we talked about earlier, Delling Rembrandt is her dad. He may or may not have taken over the world government via like a fascist capitalist technocracy takeover by killing a bunch of people with a disposable Black Ops squad. Also, I think really the big important reason he's on this list, he put his daughter up as collateral in a bid to decide who's going to be the next person who runs the capitalist corporatocracy that runs all of existence. Without like her consent or involvement or anything like that. Whoever is the top duelist in this mech school that we established under dubious premises will get to marry my daughter against her will and also take over the company.
She's 16.
Yeah.
It's just like, a normal age for being in high school and not a normal age for like being signed off.
The CEO's wife.
Being a literal child bride.
Gundam has a series that has some opinions about child brides, and The Witch from Mercury does not deviate from form in this way.
My strongly against child brides shirt is getting a lot of questions answered by my shirt.
Yeah, I haven't watched too many series, but I've seen enough of original series and enough of Iron-Blooded Orphans to know that the series has a specific opinion about anyone who has, wants, or is otherwise involved with the process of child brides. It doesn't, folks, Gundam doesn't think child brides or child soldiers are particularly cool.
Has a low opinion of them, yeah.
It was funny. This is slightly this isn't related to the category, but it's slightly related to from Witch from Mercury. But like, they did a height chart of all of the protagonists of the Gundam franchise,
and Soletta Mercury is the tallest, at several centimeters.
So first off, it's funny that Soletta is the tallest, even though she does feel like really short. But the other thing is they had to clarify, except for the only adult protagonist, Domon Kashu.
Yeah,
of course, because he's like 6'20"
because he is an adult, unlike all the other Gundam protagonists.
That's right.
Who are categorically child soldiers.
Yeah. Speaking of horrible fathers who don't believe in the autonomy of their children, let's talk about Ranji.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Ranji gets to be...
Speaking of people who think child soldiers are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Ranji gets to be here twofold reason, because one, he's a horrible father, and two, he's a horrible father in that, like, I have to deal with him in Shadowbringers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's a character that keeps showing up in Shadowbringers, even though no one asked him to be here.
That's right.
He's a bother figure.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
He's always bothering me.
We've described him like this in the FF14 episode, and I feel like it's worth reiterating. He has this horrible Fu Manchu and also like weird dark eyes that make him look like, if I didn't know this game was made by Asian people, I would assume he was a racist caricature against Asian people.
I still think when I look at him, I still think he looks like a rejected Street Fighter 2 character.
Speaking of Gundam characters, he looks like a bad master, like a bad live-action Master Asia.
Yes, he does.
You know? Like, that's all I can think of when I see that guy. I'm like, oh, no.
Look, Thancred, the East is burning red.
Yeah, it sucks. Every time he shows up, it's like, oh, God, why are we here?
Now I just want to fucking see just a screenshot of Ranjit's wild grinning face with the text "Super Ranjit."
I want to see that his wild grinning face over like an anime spin thing and just a subtitle: "Launch me, Thancred."
Shut up.
I'm just picturing him riding into battle on a Gundam Chocobo.
We also have some honorable mentions.
Yes.
In here.
Now, Saturn, I just want to get in front of your nominee for.
Sure, I'll do my nominee. I'll do my nominee last. I'm cool with that.
I just want to get in front by saying it's an Umineko character, so I already get it.
Yeah,
I know why he's on the list.
Yeah.
Umineko is principally about people who shouldn't be parents raising people who shouldn't be parents. So our honorable mention for this category, and again, honorable mention because this game did not come out anytime recently, this is from 2010, is Ushiromiya Kinzo, the patriarch of the Ushiromiya family, who's this 80-year-old drunk who wears a robe and likes cowboy guns and collects them and leaves them around his house, and also just says evil magical incantations while drinking enough absinthe to kill an elephant.
Correct.
And also he beats his kids and is a misogynist, which is a problem because he has a lot of children and at least
most of them are...
two of them are women, which is a problem when you're a alcoholic, abusive misogynist.
Yeah.
And it turns out, they're also all bad parents. Pretty much unilaterally. Even the one who's not a particularly bad parent is also a bad parent.
Yeah.
And as a result, he has to bear the karmic weight of having raised all of these fucking horrible other parents.
Awful fucking people.
And I mentioned it for this year because this is the year that I played Umineko, and then also Oats made a serious attempt at starting it, and Sara started it as well. So it would be the year to bring it up.
It's the year to bring it up. I'm not very far into Umineko, but I do know. I see this guy and I'm like, this fucking
You don't have to get too far to go, oh, this Ushiromiya Kinzo dude sucks ass.
This guy sucks ass. Okay.
It's just, I saw Umineko and you could have just put any Fate character in Worst Father and I'd be like, I get it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And anyway, our last honorable mention.
It's
Jo Sawashiro, who is the worst character in Yakuza 7.
Now, okay, Oats, we will explain this, but I just want to get in front of this saying, if you have not played Yakuza 7 and you want to, this is a huge spoiler.
So remind me, spoiling Yakuza 7. Remind me, this is the dude who shoots our protagonist, right? This is our protagonist?
No.
Araki is the guy who shoots our beautiful Ichiban.
So remind me who Joe is.
Jo Sawashiro is the lieutenant next to Araki and has been a horrible person in general to this young complete doofus of a dude. As things go by and as we learn more and more about him, we learn that he is not only kind of the surrogate secondary father figure to Ichiban, but he also is the massive spoilers headed your way. Araki's actual son is not his biological son. It's almost certainly Sawashiro's instead, who he just abandoned inside of a locker.
Yes.
There's a whole weird baby swap arc.
Yes. To make a very long story short, Sawashiro is basically their secondary dad for both of them, but has been an abusive piece of shit to both of them because they both made, or he isn't sure which one may or may not be his son because they are both by happenstance were locker babies. Just horrible things happen as a result of him.
So the difference is that Araki, upon learning that his baby is trapped in a locker, punched the locker until his knuckles cracked and were bleeding to get the baby out.
Mm-hmm.
when Sawashiro realized that his baby was in a locker, he went, "Better luck next time."
Well, by definition, that's a pretty bad dad. However, unfortunately, he is an honorable mention. So
yes.
Not in the running for our subsequent voting.
It should also be noted, he's like the second to last boss fight, so you know he's a bad dude.
Oh yeah, he's like an extremely bad dude then. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Very satisfying to kick his ass.
If you're the second to last boss fight in a Yakuza game, you're one of the most evil men in the world. I know, I get it.
Yeah.
So, with our broad swath of bad dads, who's going to cast the first stone?
Saturn, I think you should go first because you've had to be the deciding factor these last two.
That is true. I'm going to go for Professor Turo. Okay. It's hard. I want to vote for Delling Rembrandt, but also I think Professor Turo is objectively a worse. Delling Rembrandt has possibly an ideological reason that he's bad, and that doesn't necessarily forgive him for being bad, but you can kind of understand why he is the specific kind of crotchety shithead that he is.
Sure.
Professor Turo is just a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oats?
Oh. I'm gonna say Splinter. Worst father. Absolute worst father.
Okay.
Sara?
This is so hard. I am still going to pick Delling Rembrandt because a massive piece of shit fucking guy. I don't like him.
Yeah, it's hard not to pick him, but
understandable.
I think I am also going to vote for Delling Rembrandt.
There you go.
Yeah!
Yay!
Well, with 2 votes, Delling Rembrandt wins the Gorgie 2022's worst father.
Congratulations, I guess. You piece of shit.
We are now on to our next category, which is Best Surprisingly Good Father.
Oh!
We have quite a lot of father representation.
Yeah.
They say video games are all about sad dads, and I at least propose that they're about multifarious kinds of dads. And also a lot of the multiple of these categories, I have to stress, are not video games either. 2 of the ones in the last category were both animes, actually.
Like, shut up, it's fine.
It's okay, don't worry about it.
The good, the bad, and the sadly. You know?
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, our first nomination for Best Surprisingly Good Father, surprising considering that he was in the last category for Worst Father, is Splinter from Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Now I'm going to tell you, Splinter's a terrible father, but he turns it the hell around.
He does turn it around, is the thing. He makes it work.
So before we get too deep into the conversations, we'll go over the rest of the nominees too.
Yes.
Next is Dr. Eggman from Sonic Frontiers. Third is Guybrush Threepwood from Return to Monkey Island. The fourth is Jack Garland from Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Surprisingly not our sponsored representation. That is going to Thancred from Final Fantasy 14. So, let's talk about these nominees. Splinter.
He turns it the hell around.
That's the thing, is that he starts out, he's a really shitty dad at the beginning of the series. We're rolling the series into the talking about the movie, because that's how we sneak it into 2022.
Yes.
He starts out as like a huge shithead dad, but then like as the series progresses, it's actually really good. Like, it's one of the most charming things about Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is like the progression of Splinter's character into becoming like a really good dad who's actually a really good teacher as well. Like,
you know what's crazy that he does that like very few other Splinters do is one of his sons is like, hey, you really hurt me with your actions, and he goes, I'm sorry. Yeah,
it's really good. Like, there's a ton of, I don't know, like the other guy, like the boys don't get as much growth, mostly because like they were, you know, in a perfect world we would still be getting new episodes of Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We did not.
Rest in peace, Raph. You were the best Raph who ever.
You were the best boy ever. But you know, so they don't get as much progression because, like, ostensibly it would be happening much slower over the course of like 3 seasons instead of 1.5. You know,
like a show.
Like a show. Oops. So instead, we just have this, and it's still really good. Is the thing, Splinter gets the most. Excuse me. Gets the most like progression of any of the characters in the show, and like you really get to see just like this guy kind of go like, oh right, I was a good dad, and then I stopped acting like a good dad, and I need to like clean my act up and be good to my kids again. It's great.
The way I describe him, I've thought of him as multiple times, is that 2012 Splinter grounded the boys for building a skate ramp in their lair. Rise Splinter snuck a bylaw into their yearly Olympics games that allows him to get to pick tiebreakers.
That's right. And it's great. It's just like it's actually good character progression in like an American cartoon, and it's like really charming and good, and I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Sure is a shame we're never getting any more.
Right. Well, maybe. Keep your finger, maybe. It might happen. Just, it could happen.
Anyway.
Ben, tell us about
Dr. Eggman.
Eggman.
So, you know how we talked about how, like, this is the first time a Splinter is, like, referred to as dad?
Mm-hmm.
And they're just, like, not ambiguous about it. Just like, no, dad, pops, papa. Dr. Eggman in Sonic Frontiers builds an AI robot named Sage. And the minute that Sage learns about feelings, she calls Eggman father.
Mm-hmm.
And Eggman is like, I guess I have a daughter now.
I have to, because I didn't play this. I watched the Gigaboots playthrough during work because I'm a responsible adult. But the best way I can phrase it for Sara and the one or two other people who listen to our other podcast, Big Gay Nerds, is that Sage and Dr. Eggman have the exact relationship dynamic that I imagine Una did with Panther Faust.
Okay.
Oh.
Aww.
Okay.
It's, you don't expect it to be cute and like heartwarming, and then it is in a way that just fucking knocks you on your ass.
No.
Yeah.
It is like, I didn't get Frontiers because like it just it's coming up in a later category, and its presence in that category made me relatively unenthusiastic about it, shall we say. It just doesn't do a lot for me aesthetically and yada yada yada. But like, it is, aside from the various other storytelling things that people like about it, it is my favorite characterization of Dr. Eggman, maybe in anything ever. He gets a lot of like really great.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good fatherness aside, which he is, he gets a lot of great characterization in that game, and it really makes you appreciate him as like an antagonist and also as Doctor, and also as a dad.
I appreciate them giving Eggman a daughter in Sage, while also not softening his evilness.
No, he still sucks ass.
He's still a villain, and like literally the only reason he teams up with Sonic at the end is because Sage asks him.
That's great.
But I need to understand, it's not like Sage is making him a better person. Sage is his bring your daughter to work day.
She's learning how to be a villain too.
Yes.
Yeah, and like, she's definitely more emotionally available than he is, but she is also unambiguously on the Eggman side.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
I love
like, that for them.
Like, unlike how they have really in recent years, like, really softened Bowser into being more of like Bowser has been shifting more from the Dr. Eggman and / Dr. Wily side to the King Dedede side.
Oh, okay.
Which in that, you'll fight, but like, he's probably going to team up with you at the end.
He's only opposed because he's a dick, but he's not, even if he's malicious, he's not effectively malicious enough to be taken seriously as a villain.
All things consistent, Bowser is on the path to becoming the third playable character, just consistently going forward.
And Robot Eggman is not liable to ever be that.
No, he's still a villain.
They did double down on him being Eggman, but they did take some time to give him hey, we're gonna add some depth and make him a good dad.
Yeah.
But I think we're dwelling a bit much on our big round boy. So let's move on to the next dad.
Yeah. Guybrush has a kid in Return to Monkey Island.
So I'm going to just outright say I don't personally think he qualifies as surprisingly good father. You just kind of look at him and know, like, oh, he's going to make dad jokes his entire life.
Right.
He's going to be a good dad.
The surprising part in this case is that he is a father at all. That's like...
It is impossible to imagine that Guybrush Threepwood had sex, and then whoever he had sex with...
Oh, it's Elaine.
Let him see the child that resulted from their union.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Fair.
That's the surprising part.
The surprising thing is that Elaine let him hit.
It's not just that Elaine let him hit. It's that Elaine let him hit, and then Elaine went, I'm going to have this baby and also allow him to be involved with it such that it knows that he is its father.
I told Sarah about this in one of our roundups, but like, it is absolutely adorable that like, if you've played Monkey Island 1 and 2, and you know that like, Guybrush and Elaine kind of end things in a very, to be as generous as possible, ambiguous state.
Sure.
It's very, early Empire Strikes Back. Wait, are Han Solo and Leia a thing?
Are they supposed to be a thing?
Yeah.
When you re-encounter Elaine in Return to Monkey Island and you finish your first conversation with her, you can get caught in a dialogue loop of the two of them saying, no, you say goodbye first. No, you say goodbye first. No, you say goodbye first. And it goes on for like 15 prompts.
Great.
That's great.
Okay, alright.
I just imagine the alternate, like, more pessimistic version of Return to Monkey Island, where Guybrush Threepwood meets Elaine, finds out Elaine has a son, realizes it's his, and goes, wait, so is that my kid? And she goes, oh no, don't worry, I told her that you're dead. I told her dad died a long time ago.
And now Jack Garland is not technically a father.
I was gonna ask.
But he is a father to his men, and you look at that guy, and he has gigantic dad energy.
No, in fact, I don't. Like, I'll be honest, Ben. I don't know any dads who listen to nu metal because I don't know anyone who listens to nu metal who's ever had sex.
So, if it really was what we initially thought it would be, and it was like an isekai, and it's Jack and like 3 dudes just like trying to get things back together so they can finish putting the finish on their, like, the varnish on their porch, yeah, sure, yeah. I believe that.
The thing is, like, I don't buy him as a good father because he's that kind of guy in the same way that Big Boss is that kind of guy. Which is, he's not a good father, he's just gay and doesn't know what sex is.
That actually is also true for Jack Garland, so congratulations.
Exactly.
You nailed that one.
Exactly.
Now, Oats, the thing is, we're not technically incorrect in calling Stranger of Paradise an isekai.
No, but it's like, in the way that
complicated.
The way that we had initially surmised it to be.
Right.
That's all I mean. Where it's just like 4 guys from like Kentucky.
I wish that would have that would make it Game of the Year. I'm sorry.
I would have done anything for that.
And speaking of some guy from Kentucky.
Oh yeah, you gotta keep this moving.
I just spat water all over my monitor.
Our FF14 contender for this category is Thancred Waters, who is a dad to Green from Shadowbringers, which is, a 2019 thing, but it's fine.
He's still technically your dad. She asks about him when you go visit her in Endwalker.
I think he is appropriate for this category, but on the weird technicality of best surprisingly not as bad as it seemed like he was going to be father.
Yeah.
For a lot of Shadowbringers, it seems like he might be in worst father category with his buddy Ranji, and it's not until very near the end of that he buttons up a bit.
But just like Splinter, you learn that it's because he's going through some shit.
It's the turning it around that is essential here. Right.
Yeah, he does turn it around and becomes a wonderful supportive father to his lesbian daughter.
His lesbian daughter,
While, hooking up with some elf guy to ease his heartbroken woes.
God, I wish I were me.
Wow. So yeah, and that's the Anchored Waters. He's a surprisingly good dad and also surprisingly not as bad as he could have been.
That's exactly it.
Let's get to our voting.
I am going to throw down for Splinter.
I am going to throw down for Dr. Eggman.
I'm also going to throw down for Eggman.
No.
I'm going to go for Eggman.
All right, then.
Eggman!
Dr. Eggman, congratulations on your AI robot daughter and also on winning Best Surprisingly Good Father in 2022.
Where is all of the fan art of Sage hanging out with Bowser Jr.?
That, I know.
Oh my god.
We need that now.
Look, just give it time. The game's still they're still we're still in the spoiler territory for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that Bowser Jr. is like a terrible 2, right? Like he's in grade school.
Yeah,
he's just 12. She's like a weird art kid.
Yeah, Sage was born in like freshman year of high school.
Right.
Well, so in that case, where's all the fan art of Sage having to babysit Bowser Jr.?
Again. That is what I want to say.
There you go. That's exactly it. For $10 an hour. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, boy, we have a lot of we have a lot of cats. How did we let this happen?
These will it's the last podcast of the year for one thing. So it's fine.
We're only an hour and 15 in. We finished about a third of our deliberations. So we'll just have to pick up the pace a little bit.
These ones will go quick too. There's not much else to really discuss about these. So Best Hub World, Melee Island, Central Heaven, Waddle Dee Town, and the Base. From Horizon Forbidden West.
And then Final Fantasy XIV's contender here, Charlian. It's worth noting Best Hub World here was originally Best City, and we decided to expand it.
Yeah.
So, let's start with Melee Island, Ben. Tell us a bit about it.
I like how Melee Island has a trademark on it.
Well, yeah, that's Monkey Island tradition.
I know. It tickles me every time.
Melee Island, if you've played any Monkey Island previously, it's Melee Island. It's a great place. Everyone you know and love is there.
It's cute, it's charming, it's full of a bunch of fucking weirdos. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. We love Melee Island. Central Heaven, go.
Central Heaven is a bougie tourist town.
Okay.
You would think Heaven would be something different, but no, it's like the Mall of America. Turns out with like a golf course.
And it's full of bald pricks who all look the same and talk down to you.
It has really pretty music. The offices are really nice for the neons to hang out in. Good music. You just really hate all of the denizens who made it into Heaven. What a bunch of pricks.
Great.
It is, I will say, Best Hub World here is, I think, describing, in this case, most evocative Hub World. Yeah. It is a Hub World that makes you feel a lot of things.
That's right. Oh, then you know what? Charlian shouldn't be the nomination for Final Fantasy XIV, but it's fine.
We can change it before it comes up. It's fine. Yeah, you tweak it.
I know you're
gonna do that. I will just tell us a little bit about Waddle Dee Town.
Yeah.
It is a cute location. The point of it is that the more Waddle Dees you find throughout Forgotten Land, the more buildings get constructed.
No.
So like you start off with a weapon shop where you can get upgrades for your powers. You can build a little cafeteria.
So it scratches your settlement building itch, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically, yeah. You the more Waddle Dees you find to populate it, the more buildings can expand there. And it's fun to just wander around and see Waddle Dees doing little cute idle animations.
I've heard reports of a Waddle Dee that needs our help.
it would be absolutely incredible to see a Waddle Dee dressed like Preston Garvey.
Yeah.
With a little cowboy hat on and like a little duster.
Okay, and the bass. The bass is okay. It's probably not the one I'll vote for here. But the bass is like, it is cool because it starts out as like, it's an old world location in Horizon Forbidden West that like progressively opens up as the story goes on and like becomes more customized to like each person who like comes to live there. It's very cute. It's very quaint. You kind of get the feeling of like just living with your extremely weird friends, out in the woods, which is,
vibes. Yeah.
Vibes, yeah.
You get to come back to it and you get to hear snippets of conversation between your allies about whatever weird old world stuff they're learning about.
Mm-hmm.
Like learning about what pizza is and how bizarre it is to think of some kind of popular dish that is just bread and sauce and cheese.
That's right.
Don't worry, Horizon Forbidden West. I'm sure we'll keep up the VGA's tradition for you.
And it's fine. And then last but not least, I had to change it real fast because I didn't realize we had nominated Charlian. It's not. Charlian is not the best hub world in Final Fantasy XIV. It's the Crystarium. I'm sorry.
It's the Crystarium.
Yes.
I would give anything to go back.
I had originally admittedly put Charlian there when I thought we were going to try and limit it to Endwalker on account of it being modern, but Crystarium makes more sense if we're just going, fully Calvin Ball with it. I think the Crystarium whips ass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would give anything to go back in time and actually hold myself at gunpoint to play Final Fantasy XIV when Shadowbringers was new.
So you could be there during like peak activity and traffic.
Yeah, when the Crystarium isn't so. I mean, these days it's empty. Everybody congregates in
Sara, Dancing Thancred used to be there.
Dancing Thancred used to be in the Crystarium.
I also think if I'm mapping it correctly in my head, the Crystarium is just significantly larger than Charlian.
Yeah, but I like that about it. It's also prettier.
They're about the same size, but Charlian actually clusters all of its things like immediately next to the main spawn point, whereas the Crystarium does spread them out throughout. Yeah, the
one thing I do not like about Crystarium is that the market board and the shops and everything are all significantly spread out.
Yeah, but also the music is better, the design is better, it's prettier. The vibes are simply more cozy, and you're not surrounded by a bunch of insufferable nerds. You're surrounded by a bunch of people trying to make the best out of a bad situation,
I know, Sarah. We like Fallout 4.
Shut up! It's fine! Vote!
Yeah, let's vote. Let's vote.
I'm voting for Melee Island.
Ben, what are you voting for?
I am also voting for Melee Island.
Saturn, go.
I'm gonna break tradition here. I'm gonna vote for the Crystarium.
Me too is the problem.
Well, okay, we have an interesting situation here where it's 2v2 tie, but one of those sides is going to the party that would win the tiebreaker by default. So I think
wins.
I think this goes to the Crystarium.
Yay!
I would say that I think you both have to vote for another one, but I think that in this case you'll just conspire to vote for the same thing twice so the Crystarium wins anyway.
That's exactly
I don't have any opinions about the base or Waddle Dee Town because I didn't play those games. And while Central Heaven is very evocative to me, it's not a hub world it is a hub world that I, in fact, would like to spend as little time in as possible. And so I would feel bad awarding it Best Hub World. And so, Crystarium is kind of, I think, for me, I want to hang out in the Crystarium.
Yeah.
It seems like a place to be.
Also, side note, also has the best inn in Final Fantasy XIV because it's like your own little, individual apartment, and it's cute.
And there's a creepy bird who shows up sometimes.
And there's a cranky bird. And I love that bird, okay? I love...
That bird.
The fact that the Crystarium has a shoe bill in it is reason enough for it to win. So, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
The Crystarium. Congratulations, Final Fantasy XIV, on your this time not even a victory by default.
Yeah!
It's a victory halfway by default, which is almost better.
And apologies to Melee Island for getting your nomination swiped by voting for the Crystarium instead.
It would have happened. It would have happened anyway. Don't worry about it.
I'm sorry, I wasn't liable to vote for Melee Island personally. It's another one that I don't have any particularly strong opinions about.
I only voted for it because I was thinking of the original Monkey Island. So I just wanted a chance to give it a runner-up position.
You know what? That's fair, but listen, Crystarium fucking rules.
Let's keep going.
No, this one is not a lot of
theme.
Not a lot of discussion for comfiest overworld theme because it's music,
right?
Yeah, we can't really play it. We can say what they are though, which is we have the fishing theme from Sonic Frontiers, we have the Sifu Descends from the Mount from Live Alive, we have Peace of Mind from Neon White, Natural Plains from Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and our FF14 representation, the Rods at Han Night theme.
Extremely good.
Yeah. What's everyone's thoughts here? We should probably just, honestly, we can probably do explaining as... I think we can have our vote and an explanation happen at the same time here, because we can't obviously share the music. Mm-hmm. So I think we could, just say what our nomination here is and then explain why, maybe?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Somebody else go first.
Well, I'm just going to throw my hat in for the Razadon Night theme, because I put that one up.
I was also going to do that.
Yeah, so... I'm going to say my second place first.
Okay.
Which is that my second place here is Peace of Mind from Neon White, because it's a wonderfully minimal synth synth track that just kind of sets a pleasant tone for the thing. However, I am going to explain that my actual vote here is the Rods at Han Night thing, because I would listen to that on repeat for hours.
I have listened to it on repeat for hours. So.
I love the YouTube mix that just makes the bass booming. Just fantastic.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Absolutely.
It sounds like we already know the winner, but Ben, you should tell us what you're voting for.
My vote was going to be for Sonic Frontiers fishing theme.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty good one.
Because I have never actually heard a for real lo-fi hip-hop beat to study and chill to in an actual video game.
Right.
Oh, you'd like Neon White then.
I wouldn't have expected it. There's games I'd expect it for, not for Sonic Frontiers. I'll be honest with you.
That's true. I wouldn't have expected it in a Sonic game,
and not as a fishing theme. It's a bold choice. It is a pretty good lo-fi beats track. That persuasion.
Mm-hmm.
Lo-fi beat to study to hip-hop beat to study and chill to.
Yeah.
However, this category is also going to FF14. This time, unambiguously, not even as the pity pick. This time, as it got 3 votes. That's crazy.
Now, I am going to say that going forward, we should not really vote for the FF14 category, because if it gets 2 votes, it wins by default.
Yeah, but it's really good, is the problem.
It's funny when it wins.
The problem is that I will say I don't think this year was particularly strong for video game music.
Mm-hmm.
But the Rods at Han Night theme is really good.
All I'm saying, Ben, is just play it where it lays.
Look, it's fine. If we've established anything from the VGAs is that it's the comfiest overworld theme, probably doesn't matter as far as categories in the Gorge. This may as well be throwaway. As evidenced by the fact we spent all of 5 minutes discussing it before moving on to the next category.
The most fixed dungeon.
Now, our nominees here are Sastasha from Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, not FF14.
Not Final Fantasy 14 Sastasha.
Even though Sastasha, I believe, was fixed for FF14, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, next is Miquella's Haligtree from Elden Ring. After that is Dwarf Fortress from Dwarf Fortress, just like the thing.
All of it.
The next is the Cyberspace stages from Sonic Frontiers. And then last but not least, our Final Fantasy XIV nomination is the Single Hall of Totoro.
That's right.
We'll start with Sastasha. I imagine this is going to be Ben's.
So Stranger of Paradise did the impossible and made Sastasha good.
Yeah, Sastasha and Stranger of Paradise is extremely good, actually. Yeah.
So we got a problem. I picked Miquella's Haligtree because I thought we meant fixed as in, this is a fixed fight. This is bullshit. I don't want to fucking be here.
Oh, no.
Y'all should have specified that one.
Damn it.
No, it's okay. I think. Yeah, no, actually, no. Mikola's Haligtree, if we're talking about fixed in this sense, shouldn't be on here. Mikola's Haligtree is the worst fucking dungeon in that entire game. It's horrible. It's just you're walking on tree branches and being attacked by giant ants.
Oh. That sounds awful, actually.
Yeah.
It's not good.
It's bad, actually.
So now this whole category is fixed.
Well, this whole category is fucked. It's fine. Listen,
it's fine.
The point is that Sastasha in Stranger of Paradise is actually quite good. It's very beautiful. Like, that game is weird because we talked about this in the episode. I have never seen uglier character models in a video game in my life. Like, the character models in Stranger of Paradise are probably some of the worst I've ever seen in my entire life. They're all just greasy and unpleasant to look at, you know?
When you find out that most of the models in that game are the result of a Square Enix asset farm, just sending the developer of that game models that went into the game unedited in any way, shape, or form. It really explains why that game is so fucking ugly.
It is, the characters look like they came from a PS3 game that got forgotten.
Yes.
The environments are gorgeous.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, is that, like, so the character models in this game are extremely ugly, but it actually has a lot of really beautiful level design that is kind of confusing.
It's like playing Fallout 4, but your only mod is the Boston Natural exteriors one that adds a bunch of greenery and trees.
Yeah.
Right? You have all these horrible, ugly-looking people in this beautiful landscape.
That's right.
It's like if you downloaded like 4K texture packs for everything except for clothes and skin.
That's right.
For Fallout 4.
You make 100-item-long mod lists just for environmental mods and change nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
It's
I
great.
love it.
Sastasha's good.
Next is Mikola's Haligtree. We're gonna, since it's not going to win, since this category is fixed, Mikola's Haligtree sucks ass. It's you go on a bunch of tree branches where a bunch of ants try to bite you and knock you off, and then you go to a bunch of tree houses where a bunch of like knights try to hit you and knock you off and or curse you or explode at you.
In between the two, you're like on a massive like tree branch that's like 8 or 9 people wide lying down. So you're just like, okay, I'm finally in a safe spot. And then it starts throwing projectiles at you that do knockback from the sides. So of course you're gonna fall off it.
Fantastic.
Fucking bullshit.
Yeah, that dungeon is really bad. It makes sense when you consider that it is an optional area that is like part of like a 3. Mikola's Haligtree is like the first/second area in like an optional train that goes to the secret challenge boss of that game. Mikola, let me solo her. And there's just a whole gauntlet of horrible horse shit between you starting that route and getting to her. Mikola's Haligtree being the worst among them by far.
Nothing else to say. Just it's bullshit. It is fixed.
Next up, we have Dwarf Fortress.
What a glow up!
It is the most fixed dungeon in the sense that game itself is the dungeon, and it is extremely fixed by the Steam release, where they made a bunch of quality of life changes that make it intelligible to a human being that doesn't have that many DSM-5 diagnoses.
They turned it into a video game.
They made it something where you can look at it and tell what things are without having to do mental gymnastics.
Yeah.
The keybinds actually correlate to the keys that you're pressing in a way that makes any amount of sense at all. There's a lot of great graphical GUI improvements that are just incorporated from the word go. Mm-hmm. That is a really fixed dungeon, that Dwarf Fortress. Ironically enough, for being a fixed dungeon, does not currently have adventure mode in it, but they're going to get that re-enabled at some point soonish in the next couple months. Anyway, our last big one for here.
The cyberspace stages are what boost levels in Sonic should have always been. Which is, they take you a minute and a half to finish. And the idea is you just do them until you can get down to 30 seconds instead.
Oh, good. Okay.
Much like Neon White in that way.
Yeah.
A lot
If
like
Neon White was like a sub game in like Breath of the Wild.
Like,
Right.
Imagine who is here has played Sonic Adventure 1?
I have.
Okay. Imagine if Station Square was the main game and the actual action stages were things you like mini games you use to get more progression.
Well, yeah, Ben, I also have played Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, where the main meat of that game is raising chows.
Yeah, actually.
So I get it completely.
Yeah.
The cyberspace stage is the idea of boost stages just being these literal speedrun bait things are a brilliant way to utilize actually wanting to go fast in a Sonic game.
I do like going fast in a game.
Folks, we love goes fast is the thing.
Yeah.
And then
Our FF14 nominee.
the 1,000 maws of Totorak, referring to the fucktillion amounts of bugs that just show up inside of there, being mondegreened into the single hall of Totorak, because it is now just one walkway, and it's beautiful.
I will tell you that the first time I started learning to tank, which was Dark Knight, the first time I ever took Dark Knight into a leveling roulette without any of you, right? To like tell me where to go. I got the 1,000 Maws of Totorak before they fixed it. And because you're the tank, you're expected to lead the charge. And I kept getting lost, and I was like, "Oh my god, I hate it here so much."
It's a great contender for most fixed dungeon, because in all the dungeon fixing that's happened in FF14 over the last year, and they've fixed like all the required dungeons in the main story quest for for like A Realm Reborn and Heavensward, which are like the big ones that suck ass, and they've basically all been fixed to be playable and with a reasonable human brain. Totorak is the biggest one because it went from being a sort of like puzzly, multi-pathway, kind of confusingly laid out dungeon to a hallway. And it being a featureless hallway is an improvement.
That's correct.
When the patch came out to fix those dungeons, I got a screenshot of the original map and a screenshot of the current map, and I showed them to my non-FF14 friends. And I said, "You don't understand, this is better.
This is an improvement, actually."
The difference is it looks like one of them is like a sprig of like thyme or something, and then the other one looks like you've taken your finger and just dragged it up the stem and pulled all the leaves off until all you have is a pathetic little spindly thing, and going, "Yes, this pathetic little spindly thing is what I wanted."
That's correct.
Yes.
Put 'em in the trash.
It's just the meme from The Godfather, but it's, "Look how they fixed my boy."
Yeah, they improved my son.
Time for one last final. Oats talks about old Final Fantasy XIV vignette.
Yeah, do it.
The 1,000 Maws of Totorak was, for a very long time, the only place in the entire game where jumping was mandatory, because there is a single spot that has a very tall incline that you have to jump over. Even up until Heavensward, all of the maps were done such that there was never any point to jump, because it's all on like slow inclines, and there's no like actual like, oh, like I can't reach up there. There's always like a trail to get from one spot to another. So for the first 4 years of this game's existence, there was never a point for a jump button.
Great. I love
Amazing.
Final Fantasy XIV.
The missing 999 Maws of Totorak can suck my nuts.
All right, time to vote.
Yes.
Yeah, let's vote.
All right, I'm gonna say a Dwarf Fortress. Like I can finally play it again.
That game is
what do you want from me?
Ben, you go.
I am going to vote for Stasha.
I am going to vote for also Dwarf Fortress.
Oh, now it falls to me.
to determine whether Dwarf Fortress or the single hull of Totorak win.
Sara, vote with your heart.
I'm going to give it to Dwarf Fortress as well, because I think this is the only place that Dwarf Fortress is on this list. And
That's correct.
I also
Deserves
think
it.
Dwarf Fortress deserves something because of the amount of enjoyment I have gotten secondhand over the years from Dwarf
Just
Fortress
watching
stories.
people talk about it.
Exactly.
I am now tempted to play Dwarf Fortress.
Exactly.
It is still an unmedicated video game.
Yeah.
But it is now an unmedicated video game with coping mechanisms.
Well, now it has graphics.
That's right.
Now I can look at it. And
Okay.
parse what it is. Next, best post-apocalypse setting. The nominees are The Forgotten Land from Kirby and the Forgotten Land, The Lands Between from Elden Ring, Alterna from Splatoon 3, Las Vegas from Horizon Forbidden West, and our FF14 nominee, The First.
Getting lots of Shadowbringers love.
Hey, it's because Shadowbringers is
Shadowbringers is
extremely
fucking
Shadowbringers is the best expansion of Final Fantasy XIV still by a mile.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Mhm.
I agree.
So I will talk about The Forgotten Land for a bit. It is very cute and very surprising to see a post-apocalypse setting in a Kirby game.
Mm-hmm.
That's not too surprising considering how Kirby's been going.
That's fair.
Yeah, but usually the eldritch horror is happening in the real present and now. It's not afterward. Like, this is the first time
the fact that we're encountering something that, like, eldritch beyond our possible comprehension implies that they've been elsewhere.
The thing about the Forgotten Land that is adorable is that especially when you go to like the mall levels, you will see enemies queuing in line.
Cute.
Like for shops and like little events that are obviously broken down, but they're still queuing up for it.
That's fun.
Yeah.
It's a very adorable aesthetic. And it's nice. It definitely earns people calling it like The Last of Us for kids or Nier Automata for kids.
I don't have to say a whole lot about the Lands Between. We've all been hyping over Elden Ring for like 6 or 7 years, according to the VGAs.
Mm-hmm.
Explaining the Lands Between is really just explaining the basic plot summary of Elden Ring. That is really easy to glean if you've seen any advertising material for it at all.
Yeah.
Which is, God's dead, like singular God is dead, and God's 8 kids are fighting over what's left.
And
that's a good apocalypse.
It's pretty. Like, you've seen it. It's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
The entire place looks like a permanent, like, autumnal disaster waiting to happen, and winter's just on its way.
Yeah.
You've also seen all the screenshots of Ohio.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, that's Elden Ring's post-apocalypse setting. It's pretty. I don't have to say anything else.
Yeah.
Saturn, tell us about Alterna.
So Alterna is the setting for Splatoon 3's story mode. It's set, as a lot of Splatoon story modes are, in like an underground like bubble that's like a holographic environment or whatever. But what you find out about Alterna, and the weird thing about it, is it's this like collection of islands, and there's like a big like space like a rocket ship launch thing in the middle of it. And what you come to understand about Alterna is that it is the post-apocalyptic holdout of the last humans that survived the apocalypse.
Oh!
And it was what they basically built out of the scientific materials they had and held on to, like, trying to survive as humanity with, like, a really restrained population. And the thing about it that whips ass is that there is no hopeful message there. That surviving group all also died.
Great!
Yay!
Love it!
And ultimately their death, and this is why I actually think it's a really cool post-apocalypse, is because it ties into the setting of Splatoon 3 in general. And this is like, spoilers for Splatoon 3, but it's also like a thing that if you keep up with the series, you can probably infer, whatever. But, so part of why the bubbles work the way they do, which they have these holographic screens, is the idea is that they are supposed to reflect what the viewer wants to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of these surviving humans, because they're trapped in this bubble underground, it's reflecting the Earth's sky, because they want to go, like, see the sky again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's implied that after they use this rocket ship that's down here to attempt to escape the bubble and return to the surface, and basically all got killed in the process, the remnants of that bubble, the lighting fixtures and the thing, began to fall down into the water, like the ocean water that flooded this bubble, and that desire to go skyward contaminated the sea life, which is why they all evolved to be these neo-human weirdos.
Oh, that's great.
Because squids are the inheritors of the human desire to explore.
Mm-hmm. That's
and to see the sky and all that. And it's really cool. And it's it's a fun, kid-friendly way of thinking about the total extinction of all humanity by a giant meteor.
Yeah, fun.
For kids.
Yeah, for kids. Anyway,
what's your favorite sandwich topping? Mustard, mayo, or ketchup?
Let's talk about Las Vegas real quick. I actually can talk about this one.
Yeah.
Las Vegas and Horizon Forbidden West is what Las Vegas should be right now.
Yes.
It is because they
exploded ruin.
Yes, it's because they built a city in the desert that shouldn't exist. And basically, as soon as all of the mitigation systems to fight the desert back were destroyed and fell apart to the ravages of time, the desert swallowed Las Vegas right back up as it deserves. But more importantly, what you get in the aftermath is these very old, the kind of skeletal because again, this is 1,000 years after the apocalypse. So and because we are not playing Fallout 4, this is what's the word? Realistic interpretation of what the ravages of time do to things. Mm-hmm. Which is to say, consumes all. But there are still a couple of skeletons of Las Vegas left that are very interesting. And one of my favorites, and one of the best parts, probably the best part in the video game, is that right before the end, Las Vegas was implementing these holographic kind of the holograms in Cyberpunk that you see of the holographic fish and stuff in the streets. They were doing these beautiful light shows, and so what you get after doing a quest where you swim around beneath an old casino,
which is beautiful, by the way,
which is
absolutely
gorgeous, by the way, because Horizon Forbidden West, if nothing, is an extremely beautiful video game. But eventually you manage to reactivate the hologram stuff up top side, and so what you get are just these beautiful vistas of sprawling desert in every direction, but you still have these holographic over and fish and the suggestions of buildings and stuff over the dunes.
That's so cool.
It is so beautiful.
It is an amazing moment in the game where and it's also, you see it reflected because you're doing this to help out these excavators who because they don't know any better, they find these hologram projectors and they think they're spirits. So you are basically giving these people a religious experience by turning on all of these projectors.
And it should be said that the little gaggle of dudes that you meet in Las Vegas, they're a theater group, so they're all very funny and very over the top kind of characters to interact with. Because their whole thing, they're the Three Stooges, and their whole thing is that they want to they want to light the desert up so that people will come and they'll have a permanent stage to perform on, and it'll be here in Las Vegas, right? Which makes sense. Yeah. It's gorgeous. It's really, really good. It all kind of culminates in this really wonderful moment of the voice acting is great. It really sells this whole moment of this is something that they've been wanting to do for their whole lives. And it's a great moment. It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the first, because Shadowbringers is good, and Shadowbringers is an extremely good post-apocalyptic setting. Yeah,
you've heard us talk about the first plenty.
Yeah. So it's good.
I will also cycle back, actually, before we get to voting, real quick, because, Ben, when we ended discussion on Splatoon 3, you joked, okay, now let's ketchup, mustard, mayo, which is your favorite? I do regret to inform you that it is also part of Splatoon's post-apocalypse.
Yeah.
I know that. I know that the reason why they have the Splatfest in the first place is because they are getting satellite messages.
Yeah, there's a human satellite in somewhere in space or from the past that is literally just running the Wii Shop channel and beaming it to the squids, and they don't know what it is, so they assume it's messages from God.
That's great.
Yeah, it's so good.
Fantastic.
Anyway.
That's why the Decepticons won the Splat War once.
That's right.
Exactly.
Anyway, Las Vegas. I've not seen it, but I do have a bias, as we all know. Because while I no longer live there, I grew up in the Mojave. So any opportunity to go like, oh, if only I could visit the magic of Vegas again without being forced to look at Las Vegas.
That's correct.
Yes, controlling the Mojave really
Almost
makes you wish you were
winner.
I am also voting for Las Vegas.
Yeah. Saturn.
Not having any familiarity with Horizon Forbidden West, I'm actually going to pitch my vote here for the Lands Between from Elden Ring. Just because as far as post-apocalypses go, I can't really get into everything without just like doing a mini gorge on Elden Ring itself. But every new thing you learn about the Lands Between really drives home the fact that this is not just a land abandoned by God, this is a land blighted by God in a way that is probably irreparable.
We should do an Elden Ring gorge at some point, Saturn.
Oh god. Yeah.
The first time Elden Ring goes on like pretty decent discount, I'm probably gonna snag it. I'm very interested.
I am liable to replay that game again sometime soon. It's really good.
The Coliseum update's really good, Saturn. I've played it.
Oh, hell yeah. I hope they actually do a real DLC for that at some point.
Maybe someday.
Anyway, it sounds like... Well, actually, I guess what's Sarah voting?
I'm also voting for Las Vegas.
Okay. Yeah!
I
can't believe it.
Well,
Horizon broke its VGA streak and actually won a category on the Gorges.
Yay!
Ain't that a kick in the head?
That moment is...
Like the sailors
the best
float.
Probably the best moment in the game.
It's so good. Yeah, it's an incredible moment. It's just so like it's beautiful and magical, and even if you don't play Horizon, I think you should at least go like watch it in 1080p on YouTube or something, because it is beautiful. Like it's legitimately a good expression. I like Horizon a lot, even though I think it's kind of obviously it's nothing like super groundbreaking. But I think the thing that always appeals to me about Horizon is that it has like there's a lot of really interesting art in that game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I see.
Next,
the most phoned-in adaptation of a series.
Now, the nominees for this are Arcane League of Legends, Dragon Age Absolution, Transformers Earthspark's first couple of episodes, Resident Evil Netflix, and our FF14 nominee, the Final Fantasy XIV vignettes from Pop Team Epic.
Fantastic. Can any of us speak authoritatively about Arcane?
I cannot, and actually I'm a little surprised to see it
How
on this
is this
list.
here?
Honestly, everyone I've heard talk about this really enjoys it.
Yeah.
I threw it in mostly because from what little I've seen of it, it is the most, like, we have a lot of really good ideas, but we're not allowed to just make a brand new thing, so we're just going to throw...
You're just going to... It's hindered by being League of Legends.
I'm not saying that because like a lot of people who were once into League of Legends lore are really excited about finally having anything lore related and it's actually good.
Mm-hmm.
However, from what little I understand of it, it does kind of come across as like we had this really great idea and it's really good, but they're not letting us just do like a normal, like a brand new IP.
I get you.
Gotcha.
I get you. Phoned in, and that it seems very disconnected from the actual.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Next one on here is Dragon Age Absolution. Has anyone watched those?
I've seen several vignettes of it, and I'm not entirely sure why we're doing a Dragon Age series. Almost 10 years after the last one came out.
Yeah,
that's
I don't know either. Dragon Age is extremely cold right now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is phoned in at least. Like I haven't seen any of this at all. I didn't know it existed until I saw it on this list. I'll be perfectly frank with you. I feel like it's by definition phoned in by way of the fact that who the fuck gives any shits about Dragon Age in the last 5 years?
Yeah, who is this for?
The insane thing is that I have seen stuff about Dragon Age Absolution and did not realize it was a Dragon Age thing.
That's hilarious.
I thought it was some other like fantasy kids cartoon on Netflix because that's what it looks like exactly.
That's hilarious.
Let's briefly say, because we've already said it before, Earthspark's really good, but those first like 2-3 episodes,
rough,
mid.
Extremely mid. I would say the first 5 episodes of Transformers Earthspark are insanely mid.
Was that the one that we group watched?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, because I'll admit, like, I didn't watch... I wasn't paying too close of attention, because I think I was playing Genshin Impact at the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
I did not hear anything that particularly made me want to tune in.
There's an episode where they chase after some cows.
Yeah.
It's pretty fine.
It's extremely mid.
You have to commit to get to the later episodes, and once you do, it goes off the fucking charts.
It's extremely good. Yeah, once you hit like episode 5 and going forward, it's like okay, now I'm actually paying attention and I care, and this is good. But boy, those first 5, I'm watching it like I don't know about this, Chief. This is like like. I know that Transformers in general is like is like a franchise for children, excluding the comics, of course. Mm-hmm. But like, this is supposed to be like I was watching and I'm thinking like, this is technically supposed to be the same demographic as Transformers Prime. Like they're aiming for the same age groups, but boy, this is a lot rougher than Prime. But no, it actually does get better. Right now, Prime is still better, but we'll see what the rest of season 1 does. Because like, yeah.
Resident Evil Netflix sure is.
Sure is. Resident Evil Netflix sure is.
Oh, God.
At risk of tipping my hand too much, I'm frankly surprised we have a most phoned-in adaptation of a series category when there's a really obvious winner here.
I'm just saying.
I'm saying the reason we have these 3 other picks is because we all, as a collective, forgot about Resident Evil.
Yeah.
I
won't forget what they did to Hitchy.
I'm just saying it is kind of weird that we had as many different things that could go in the same category as we did.
Yeah.
I think it's weird that 3 of these are on Netflix. Wait, that's not weird at all. Never mind.
No, Netflix producing a phoned-in adaptation?
Honestly, you could...
Why isn't Cowboy Bebop on this list? Was that from last year?
That was last year, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, God, was it? Oh, God. Honestly, though, even funnier is that you could put multiple... Like, you say Resident Evil... You could say Resident Evil, the Netflix. There are 2, 3 Resident Evil
2.
Netflix things, and they're both bad.
There's the series, and then there's the Welcome to Raccoon City movie.
And they're both awful.
They're both bad.
Terrible.
This was the one from 2022, so that's the one that has to go on there.
This is for clarification, this is the one that does the thing Resident Evil specifically does not do, which is make it a post-apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, I do need to ask, have any of you seen, watched Pop Team Epic outside of, Twitter clips?
No.
I have watched, I have watched Pop
1.
Team Epic, season 1, but I have not watched any of the episodes with the vignettes in them.
Yeah.
This anime season has straight up just been too packed for me to give Pop Team Epic.
Yeah. So I have, and it is literally just oh, these are really funny Pop Team Epic, adaptations. Oh, they did new stuff to it. And then we get to the Final Fantasy 14 things, and it's just an ad, but with, the Pop Team Epic, characters in it.
That's hilarious.
It's so aggressively obvious that they even kind of lean in on it.
That's really funny.
I can't be too harsh on them, because they did specifically reference the twinning meme.
Yes.
Yes.
So as we go into our voting here, I'm actually going to discuss that as why I am not voting for Pop Team Epic, which is that anything that has the care to specifically reference the twinning meme cannot possibly be a fully phoned-in adaptation of
right.
14. It requires some willingness to engage the fandom there. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give this to Resident Evil Netflix because it's a Netflix adaptation and a Resident Evil adaptation, and so the phoned in value there I think has a stacking
it's a multiplier,
multiplier, yeah.
I'm also giving it to Resident Evil.
I'm giving it to Resident Evil.
I am giving it to Dragon Age Absolution because boy howdy, those were really rough.
All right.
What a fantastic waste of Lance Reddick.
Truly tragic, because he's so... And the thing is that, like, every time Lance Reddick is on the screen, isn't on the screen, you should be asking, where is Lance Reddick? Because he is actually quite good in the show. But, like, boy, he is just... And he's a Wesker. Even better is that he's Albert Wesker. And he just owns it every time he's on the screen, right?
I feel like it must be the thing with the same thing with, like, because we mentioned Cowboy Bebop from last year, like with Spike and Jet's actors and that, where it's like, they're very good actors who are doing the best they can with what they're given.
Right.
But that show is built on shaky foundations.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the problem, is that, like, fundamentally, the Resident Evil, the Netflix, is quite bad. There's no saving it, so, oops.
All right. Our last category, but our last general category.
Yes. The best Nier Automata adaptation, Sonic Frontiers, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Horizon Forbidden West, Signalis, and our FF14 tiebreaker, the Nier Raids.
Now, you may ask yourself, it seems pretty unfair in this category that we have something that literally has Nier Automata in it. But I'm sure there will actually be competition for it.
But you'd be surprised.
But also, shut up. It's fine.
Do you remember back in 2017 when we did the Gorgies, and we all joked that it is kind of weird that Nier and Horizon and Breath of the Wild all had the same category and was comically the exact same, like, premise.
All came out the same year.
Within a couple of months of each other, all told.
And here's the thing, too, and why I like this category here. You usually have, when a game comes out, 3 to 5 years before you start feeling its impact in the gaming space. Because that's how long it takes for the people who played it when it came out, who work in the game industry, to go, oh, fuck, that's good, we should steal shit from it.
Right.
And then for those games to come out. For Breath of the Wild, we got that a little bit earlier, because we got stuff like, Phoenix Immortals, and we got Genshin Impact, and all those other things that really cribbed that. We got those about, like, I want to say 3 or 4 years after, thereabouts, because people were really in a rush to crimp that specific steez. We are now at the 5 to 5.5 year point with Nier Automata, where we're getting the things that are explicitly ripping off Nier Automata in a really big way. There was actually also, and I'm going to give it an honorable mention here, because I shunted it out to make room for Signalis, to Area Zero from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which also is a Nier Automata adaptation. So honorable mention for that. It has a Toby Fox song with crazy vocals that just sounds like Nier music. It's really
great.
It's really good.
But I bring this up because I can't think of a single game that is specifically ripping off Horizon, and that makes me feel bad for Horizon.
Yeah, sorry.
Horizon.
It's crazy to me that Horizon, not to, like, go off on a tangent, because we're already at 2 hours, but we're here already, we might as well.
Just go.
It's crazy to me that Horizon came out the same year as Breath of the Wild, because it feels like a Breath of the Wild ripoff.
Yeah,
right?
It really does.
But no, they're contemporaries.
I think in general, especially people like the Gigaboots crew, people are mean to Horizon. It's not Horizon's fault.
No.
It has the worst luck ever, because so the year the first Horizon came out, it came out when Breath of the Wild came out. And then this year, Horizon was contemporary with Elden Ring.
Yeah.
So, and also that new God of War that people
I'm just saying,
it's really the Gwell Jetterk of modern video games.
Yeah, no, you know what it is, because Saturn has now appreciated it, so we can all say it. It is the speed racer to other video games' Iron Man.
Iron Man.
Yeah.
No, because the thing is, it got a second one.
I mean, you're right.
Yeah, and it's presumably going to. I mean, they're putting out a lot of Horizon content.
The problem
it's still around.
Speed Racer, Prey 2017 is the Speed Racer of modern video.
Yeah. The problem is that
it did get death loops.
Horizon is I hate to say it, because I like Horizon a lot. Horizon is the James Cameron Avatar video games.
They've committed to making 4 sequels, even though no one really wants them.
Sarah, it's true, but you shouldn't say it.
I'm gonna say because listen to me. No, listen. It's beautiful, right? Like it's gorgeous, and Avatar is too. All things, all things equal. Avatar is very beautiful. Both movies are gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It did make a lot of money. The thing about Horizon is that it did sell well. Like it does. It does numbers, but it also has no cultural impact whatsoever.
It's true. It's true, but you shouldn't say it.
I'm going to say it. It has to be known.
I can't really all I know about Horizon, and again, I own a PlayStation 5. Mm-hmm. Those games have been on. I haven't played either of those games, so they've both been on my radar. I owned Horizon, the first one, at some point. I no longer own it. I think I traded it back in the GameStop without ever playing it. Really, all I know about that game is that there's a white woman with dreadlocks and she fights big robot animals.
That's right.
That's all I got. There's Elon Musk is in it, apparently.
He is, and it's great.
As is, frankly, at this point, unsurprising for any game about the tech future that came out in the 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But he is also kind of in Mass Effect Andromeda also.
But he's also a huge piece of shit in Horizon, which is
in Horizon, Elon Musk is explicitly the most heinous villain of all time.
He's responsible for everything, yeah.
He is trying to replace Walt Disney in video games, which is to say they need someone who has an impossible amount of money and is also fucking brick shit stupid.
That's correct.
But these in comparison for Nier Automata as an adaptation.
Yeah, so let's start with Sonic Frontiers.
Sonic Frontiers has machines in it, and it also has Ikaruga in it.
The Ikaruga is really come on, guys, are you fucking kidding me?
It just straight up has Nier Automata's Ikaruga hacking. Just 1-to-1.
Great, they didn't even try.
Exact same thing.
And you know what? I'll be real with you. Sage kind of looks like a Sonic-style adaptation of 2B.
Yeah, she does. And she also flickers red like the Red Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she is literally also the Red Woman. There is that too.
Yep. The Cocos, which are the little bell-shaped little minion guys, are just the machines from Nier, in that they are inorganic materials trying to imitate the life that once lived on these islands.
They babble unintelligibly and don't seem too concerned about dying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That game is really just they really did not try to hide it at all.
Even really going for it.
Also, it has a fishing minigame.
Yeah.
All JRPGs must have fishing.
Even cyberspace looks a lot like the cyberspace from the cyber world from Nier Automata.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it has the 3D printed kind of aesthetic that the copied world does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Downright it the music also has the overall music has a lot of the same vibes of being very haunting and melodic.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a lot of Breath of the Wild in there, but it's one of the only things we're gonna rip off the 2 best games of 2017 that leans heavier on Nier Automata than it does Breath of the Wild.
Yes. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is a lot of, like I mentioned, a lot of the same aesthetics of the post-apocalypse that Automata has.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the machines, the minions in Kirby seem to be emulating the life that used to exist in this land.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that Kirby... I guess the problem is that Kirby seems to be the type of character where I feel like the crux of the post-apocalypse is that Kirby is the Stumpy in the situation for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's just cute. He doesn't know what's going on, but he's exploring. He's finding new things to do, and he's just gonna copy what he sees.
He's having a good time.
That's Kirby.
It's true. Yes.
And he's gonna find a Fallout 4 toilet skeleton and turn into that.
Horizon Forbidden West. This one's also obvious. was brought up in the 2017 Gorgies because it's weirdly familiar, like weirdly similar to or to Nier. It's post-apocalyptic, dominated by robots kind of setting, set like way long after like the old world is gone kind of thing, and it's like, oh, okay.
It's gotta be weird to be shown up in your release year by a contemporary that's doing the same thing as you are, and then that game
with like half the budget or less.
And then that game doesn't really have a sequel, and then you release a sequel that dials in on copying them even harder than the first time. It's really there's some complexes happening over there at Sucker Punch or whoever it is.
Guerrilla
Guerrilla
Games.
Right.
Yeah, Sucker Punch is Ghost of Tsushima.
That's right.
Yeah, no, it's just like, boy, you just continue to feel bad for Horizon.
Horizon, and I mean this in the most affectionate way possible, Horizon is the definitive also-ran.
It's true. And lastly, Signalis.
I have Signalis in here, because again, this was originally, I'll re-mention the honorable mention here, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's Area Zero, which, similar to Sonic Frontiers and Kirby and the Forgotten Land, has a part in it, and it's just Nier Automata, like, aesthetically. Signalis is also Nier Automata, but it goes a somewhat different way, where instead of copying it aesthetically, it is a narrative thematic character Nier Automata, which is to say your cast is comprised entirely of blisteringly hot, extremely mentally ill androids in uniform, including the most mentally ill hot girl of them all, who is the one guy in the cast.
Yep.
And without getting too much into it, there's a lot of very similar beats about like the hopelessness of being alive,
existential dread, yeah,
the terrors of living in a totalitarian society, doomed romance that persists beyond life, things like that. So it's going for the Nier Automata, and again, like, Signalis has been in development in some way or another since 2014, but they've been very clear about it in like post-release stuff that the game that like the story that is there now has very little in common with the original conception of Signalis in a way that does in fact make me feel like it does deserve to be called a Nier Automata adaptation.
Sure.
So yeah, that's my nomination for Signalis.
The Nier raids are obvious.
They're Nier. It's just Nier.
There's nothing that needs to be said here.
There's a Nier Automata raid, and there's a Nier Automata raid, and then
there's a Nier Automata raid.
And then there's a Nier Replicant raid
that
is disguised as a Nier Automata raid.
And then at the very end, it peels back the layers, and you go, "Oh shit! It's a Drakengard this whole time."
Oh fuck! It was a Drakengard raid this whole time. Oh shit!
You can dress up your character like Nier characters. 2B is there.
Please, I'm asking you, Square Enix, be bold enough to do an actual Drakengard raid series, you bastard.
I need it. I need
it badly.
I need Yoko Taro to decide that an FF14 raid is canonically what created the world of Drakengard.
That's right. God damn it. I want the dragons from Drakengard to be explicitly related to the dragons from Final Fantasy XIV. You're welcome.
Yeah, tie it together.
We just send Vritra off into a pocket dimension.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, vote.
I am going to vote for Sonic Frontiers because it somehow manages to feel more like Nier than the Nier raids.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah. Who's next?
Let's say Oats. I feel like Oats doesn't.
Oats.
I'm always the... Okay.
Okay, let's say Sara.
I'm voting for Signalis.
Okay. Then I guess I'm voting for Signalis.
Uh-oh. Alright, yeah, cool. I'll vote for Signalis.
Mentally ill robots!
I think honorable mention for this, for me, does go to Sonic Frontiers, because that is the most, like, that's just Nier. You stole it. You can pretend all you want. You just stole it.
You can get sued for copyright infringement.
I'm just realizing that Frontiers even has the word Nier in it.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah,
the T silent.
Yeah.
Frontiers.
I think it's very fun that between Signalis and Crystarium in an earlier category, we have two winners in this category that were added literally either during recording or 15 minutes immediately prior to recording.
Oh,
Wonderful.
Wow, great.
So
And
now
that's all
we
of our general categories.
now we get into 4 of our personal categories. These are our special categories in which we could just nominate anything that we experienced or played or whatever that this year. It doesn't have to come out this year, but it had to have existed in our collective conscience for this year.
Right.
And we each took a category where, like, so Oats has a category, I have a category, Sarah has one, Ben has one, where we all nominated all of the entries in our specific category. I figure we should still vote on all of these, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that.
All right,
Also,
Oats, you're up.
I'm going to correct a typo on Oats' real quick.
So, the Oatsy Medal of Excellence in the field of dumbass hoes is a special award that goes to truly the most himbo of bimbos.
That's correct.
Starting with Leonardo Yamato from Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, where
That's
he's
right.
a complete fuck up.
we
Then
love a boy who fails at everything.
We do love a boy who loves everything. The other one is Neon Yellow from Neon White, because I love any excuse to call ENJQ a himbo.
Neon Yellow is truly a dumbass hoe.
Beautifully written character. You can believe that he has -5 brain cells inside of him.
The little I've experienced about him, the thing that sticks out to me most about him is the bit where he looks at White and says, "You and me, we're like Naruto and Sasuke."
Yeah.
And despite him being like the big boisterous blonde one and White being the brooding black-haired one, I believe he also explicitly says that he is the Sasuke in that situation.
Great.
He's extremely stupid. My favorite. So, we also have Arvin from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, who is the son of said worst father character.
Oh, okay.
Who is, unfortunately, because of the way he's raised, literally raised with his dog and doesn't really know a whole lot of social interaction other than yelling at you to help him.
Excellent.
He knows one thing, and it's how to make sandwiches.
Yeah. He's like, I will make you a sandwich if you help
Oh, is
me.
he the cute one?
Yeah, he's the one. He's the one with the chocolate pudding hair.
Okay.
Who has the big dog who he loves.
Yeah, okay. I understand immediately, Oats.
Uh-huh. So anyway, the next one...
That's the character that Sarah would like in Pokemon Scarlet.
I'm just saying. The next one goes to Gorge from Gundam the Witch from Mercury, who, as we have just established before, is bone stupid at this point.
Yes.
And unfortunately down on his luck in a way that just makes you pity him in an affectionate manner.
That's correct. We love him.
With the Final Fantasy
I think also a dumbass hoe, too, because he immediately falls in love with Soletta Mercury, and also, much like more successful, less dumbass characters, also has a squad of girl goons.
That's right.
does have a bitch squad, which is fantastic. Points for him for that. The Final Fantasy XIV mention goes to Xenos Viator Galvus, because in what world could you not imagine that a well-read man such as him, who also has no idea how to do a dinner date,
That's right.
How could you not consider him a dumbass hoe?
That's correct.
The honor.
Xenos standing naked in the shower with his giant ass going, "Everybody is so mean."
with the honorable mention going to the 4 entire seconds of footage of Starscream laughing as voiced by Steve Blim.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I've never been more excited by just like a little stinger moment at the end of a cartoon episode in my entire life.
You see a pathetic little bit. It's also made better by the fact that he has like the G1 design, but he is this scrawny little twink with an evil like Star Trek goatee.
That's correct.
It is the stupidest looking like Starscream I've ever seen. What a dumbass little hoe.
I need him. And the fact that he does his little laugh, and you're like, that's cute. And then they roll credits immediately after that, and you see listed in the credits Starscream, voiced by Steve Bloom, and you go, oh, they're really going for it. Okay, yeah.
They're going for dumb bitches like me who go for dumbass hoes.
That's correct. That's correct.
I suppose, Oats, you should take the honorable first vote in your own category. I feel like that's something. Yeah. I feel like that's a good pattern to hold too.
It's true. I think for this one, the most dumbass of hoes in here absolutely goes to Neon Yellow. He may not be the most attractive. He may not be the prettiest. He may not even be the smartest. But that's why we vote for him.
That's right. He is truly the dumbest of ass hoes. I think I fucked that up. It's fine.
No, you're good.
I think it's
I also deserve to be on this list.
Yeah, actually, put in an honorable mention.
Another honorable mention is me.
Honorable mention, Sara, the Gorge podcast.
That's
real
correct.
Human woman.
But if we put her down there, I'd have to, despite the fact that she's just an honorable mention, I'd still vote for her.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm voting for Ghoul. If we all get a vote in this, I'm voting for Ghoul.
All right.
I am also voting for Neon Yellow.
Yeah, I think just in terms of, I like Gorge. Gorge is, I think, my honorable mention here. I have to vote for Neon Yellow because he is the most dumbass and the most hoe. So I feel like, by definition, it has to be Neon Yellow as the winner of this category.
Fair.
I cannot, in good conscience, vote for anyone else because of you and me. We're like Naruto and Sasuke.
Yeah.
There's also a really good bit in that game where, like, when you first meet the angels, and it's like, hey, why are you a cat on a cloud? And it's like, well, we're angels. We are beyond mortal comprehension. So you just, we look whatever your human mind can conceive of as being. And then Red says, it's weird that I also see a cat in sunglasses on a cloud, huh? And then Neon Yellow shows up and is like, guys, isn't it crazy that John Cena is right here giving us jobs?
So good.
Love that stupid ass.
Fucking idiot. Okay.
So the winner is Neon Yellow.
That's my favorite writing in the entire fucking game.
It's so fucking good.
All
right.
Next up is we should actually highlight that Neon Yellow. His little golden trophy.
Good for him.
Good for him. Stupid.
Next up is the Saturn Award for Man-Made Horrors Beyond Your Comprehension, in which I am deciding to highlight things I played this year that have things that are horrible that I think are cool, but are also horrible.
Fair.
We're going to start with psionic Soviet androids from Signalis, which is what Signalis is principally about. To not do any spoilers, but go into the basic premise of it. They discovered that they discovered psionics, B, have no real idea what psionics are or how to use them, but C, realize that they could use psionics to, like, break people down into memory imprints and make copyable robot slaves out of them.
Oh!
Mm-hmm.
And those copyable robot slaves are also made out of synthetic meat and maybe real human brains? Question mark?
Great!
And I have to stress, the entire reason that game looks like Alien is because this is a futuristic spacefaring society where they discovered how to make the slave brain clone psionic androids and then decided to just completely neglect to develop any other technology in favor of trying and failing to advance the development of psionic slave clone androids.
Great, fantastic.
Oh, fun.
So that one's pretty good. Second one is Abiogenesis from the Barnacle Goose Experiment. Barnacle Goose Experiment is a weird narrative cookie clicker type game that I played that came out this year, very small scale. It's about someone who is sealed in an enclosed space in kind of like a government biodome as part of an experiment in abiogenesis, which is the idea of, like, abiogenesis basically refers to the idea of, like, where life comes from and the idea of life coming from non-life,
Mhm.
right? And it's this cookie clicker where your introductory materials in the cookie clicker are just like the dust that you exist from just existing, like skin cells, and piss, and your tears from crying, and combining these into things that somehow become like entire biospheres and like technology and people in a way that is extremely horrifying to think about for more than 10 seconds at a time.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
A third of these is the Zaraman 10-0 from Warframe, which is basically a ghost ship from hell that is currently plugging a hole in reality, and if it becomes unstuck in that hole in reality, the entire solar system will be flooded by demons from the exterior universe.
Love that.
I'll quickly
Amazing.
I'll quickly explain it to Penn and Sarah as, do you remember the quantum duplicates in the Lost Light?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
What if the Lost Light accidentally rammed itself into a wormhole and created a quantum duplicate of itself that is overlaid on top of itself?
Fun.
Great.
And this horrible thing that is basically a holding the threads of reality together. If anything happens to it, we're all dead.
Great.
Love that. Love to
Mhm.
hear it.
Fourth going on here, because I originally thought we were going to try and put some Final Fantasy categories in this too, much as Xenos was in Oats. I put the End Singer here as being the sort of the final boss of Persona 3 dialed up 100 times.
That's right.
Being
Pretty
the
fucking great.
Sin Eater for all of the universe's despair.
That shit's fucked.
Yeah, it's great. What I like about it, and where I think gives it the man-made horror beyond your comprehension winner here, is the idea that the fact that we are able to engage with it at all is mostly an accident, because you have to pave the way to its lair by making reality explorable at the expense of just putting a human soul there.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
you have to build a step ladder out of your friends to go fight the final boss, which
You know,
is just
It's
horrible.
so good.
You know the bit in Advent Children where all of Cloud's friends are launching him higher and higher up so that he can fight Sephiroth, you know?
Uh-huh.
What if every time that happened, they died?
Yeah, what if they died doing that?
Sounds great.
And my honorable mention here, because I decided it should just be stuff that is from this year, and also because, like, I didn't play this one personally, but I experienced it this year, is my honorable mention goes to the Abnormalities from Lobotomy Corporation. For the uninitiated, Lobotomy Corporation's kind of like a management sim, but you're running an SCP foundation, basically. The Abnormalities are your SCPs, very explicitly. However, what gets the Abnormalities here is, unlike the SCPs, which are just sort of, things that exist, there is a cosmology for the Abnormalities, and this is going to get into spoilers for Lobotomy Corporation, but consider it pitched on the setting. So you know the demonic beasts from Singularity 6?
Yeah.
So what if you could make demonic beasts up to and including beasts of humanity, if you were really unlucky, by exposing human souls to the Grail mud? And also the entire route was full of Grail mud.
Oh.
I love it. Thank you. That's actually a huge selling point for me.
Yeah, the cosmology of the Lobotomy Corporation is fucking horrifying.
Love it.
And it does, so it's a great spin on the SCP thing in a way that makes it worse while still being like kind of a goofy knockoff thing. I do appreciate it a lot. Man, as for my nomination here, at risk of being predictable to myself, I'm going to vote for the psionic Soviet androids. Because I really, really like when a setting's like, we have this incomprehensible, pseudoscientific, maybe supernatural thing going on that we do not understand at all, but have still decided to base our entire society off of it.
Yeah, that's great.
If there's consequences of that, we could not possibly have predicted that. But they will be horrible.
I'm throwing my vote in for the Zaraman 10-0 because the incidental dialogue of the people who give you quest lines implying that as you fix their singularities, they finally go back to their original state, which is to say a living corpse.
Well, actually, that's the wonderful thing, actually, because I didn't mention this because it's not relevant context for anyone else. But Oats, I actually finished the rankings for the Zaraman 10-0.
Did you?
When you get all of their so as you rank up with them, they kind of process their traumas with each other. The not the survivors, but those who are left from the Zaraman 10-0. Because when you meet them, you understand that they are basically ghosts who have been rent back into existence by you, the player character's presence there, because you're also from the Zaraman 10-0. And they're sort of coming to terms with them being ghosts actually results in their final incarnations not having any of the weird void shit on them. They just look like normal humans.
Yeah, I noticed that they were slowly losing it throughout the time. But
yeah, at the end of it, they no longer have any of that shit on them. They just look like people. But it's because they have resolve themselves to being ghosts whose job it is to preserve the Zaraman 10-0 into perpetuity.
Nice.
The Skulltula family in Ocarina of Time?
Kind of, yeah. But the other reason is because the Zaraman 10-0 is basically me voting for the Lost Light.
Correct.
I am going to vote for the End Singer for giving me, real person Ben, host of this podcast, actual anxiety.
That's fair.
That's very fair.
I'm also going to vote, again, not to be cliche, I'm also voting for Psionic Soviet Androids because I just really like I like all of Signalis' vibes. They're extremely good.
Yay! Signalis is winning more awards at the Gorgies than it will in literally the entire rest of the internet combined.
That's correct.
And I'm so far the only person who's played it.
You're about to know why.
I'll get around to it.
Don't worry about it.
I'm just saying. I'm pointing a gun at you.
Listen. Listen. It's happening. It's just there's a reason. Have you noticed? Well, let's just get into my part. You know why.
This will be relevant for literally every single person in this call.
That's correct. Whoops. I did a bad thing. That's your foreshadowing. So my award is Sara's Certificate of Decisions That Make You Say Go Fuck Yourself. There are all kinds of fun things to go over here. The first one, despite my ambivalence toward Horizon, this one actually does really grind my gears. So they killed a Varl in Horizon Forbidden West, and it's bad. I don't like it.
That make me mad.
It make me mad.
Yeah.
I'll talk about that in just 2 seconds. So I guess I didn't format this the way as everybody else did, so I'm doing it on the fly. Next is both sidesing chattel slavery in Tales of Arise.
Because
as we've talked about, a thing Tales of Arise does.
A thing Tales of Arise did. The fact that Pokemon sold 10 million fucking copies. Oats added this one, and I'm really glad she did because...
You're welcome.
Because, boy, it sure did sell 10 million copies. We're never getting another good-looking Pokemon game ever again.
The fact that you ranted about it on 3 different occasions made me go no, this should be in here.
This should be in here. It drives me insane. We're never going to have a good-looking Pokemon game. Even though I know that Scarlet and Violet is, by all accounts, a good Pokemon video game, we will never have an appealing-looking Pokemon game ever again.
It runs like launch day Fallout 4, which is crazy for a game that isn't Fallout 4 and also came out in the year of our Lord 2022.
And is also a Nintendo game,
and also just doesn't have as many systems going on in it as any given Bethesda open world game, right?
Now I will give it credit. I actually know what a significant amount of that terrible performance is, aside from it looking like shit and running on a Switch, which is it is, for what it's worth, juggling a lot of data at the same time. Your Pokemon box is accessible from literally everywhere, so all of your Pokemon that you own are basically constantly loaded in memory. Also, every time it generates any Pokemon, it does 20 different calculations about its stats and this, that, and the other thing, several times a second, constantly everywhere you are. However, they shouldn't have made the game like that.
They shouldn't have made it that way.
On a fucking old phone. What's your problem?
It is so ugly. I cannot overstate how ugly I think Scarlet. I will probably never play Scarlet and Violet because of how ugly I think it is.
On God, that game is designed like they thought maybe they'd have the chance to put it on PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5, and then we're told at some point, no, it's saying on Switch. You just got to make it work, and they're like, oh fuck.
I can't wait for I don't fucking know. Blushing Scarlet and something Violet.
Oh, they're not doing that.
To be released on Switch 2.
Yeah.
Eyeshadow Violet.
Well, for Switch 2, maybe they might do that for Switch 2. They didn't do that for Sword and Shield, so we're probably not actually getting Ultra releases.
It's tremendous. Just comparing this to other fucking Pokemon games, even ones that came out this year. It looks significantly worse. We're never getting any. Anyways, the other one is an obvious one, but they killed off Xenos in Final Fantasy XIV, and by all accounts, it's gonna stick. I mean, maybe it won't. I don't
believe them. I think Yoshi P is a stupid fucking liar.
I hope he's a stupid fucking liar.
I think there's no way.
Surely to God.
I think there's no way.
He's their mascot in Dissidia. They can't. They have to bring it back.
Right.
I also think if he was going to be permanently killed off, they'd stop fucking bringing him up in the post-launch content. And yet, here we are.
But still, in the moment, bad decision. I will point out that this is almost entirely here because I finished Final Fantasy XIV, and I had a bunch of people on a group call. You know, I did the final day, and then I had a bunch of friends who came and helped me do the final day, including Saturn and Oats and a bunch of other people from the Discord join our Discord. But they all came and they helped, and then they all stayed on call and waited for me to get done with the last duty, the solo duty against Xenos, because I had threatened to kill every single one of them if he died at the end of Endwalker. So I get back on call, and everyone's like you can hear the fear in their voice. How you feeling? And I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I know he'll be fine. It's cool. Don't worry. The next day, not even 24 hours later, Yoshi P gets in an interview with Famitsu, and it's like, no, he's dead forever. And it's like, okay, wow.
He's definitely dead forever.
And you're just
dead forever. Come on.
And you're just like, but I know he might not actually be dead forever. But in the moment, I was just like, okay.
Again, it's impossible to take what he's saying seriously because this is a guy who has decapitated himself and came back from that.
Yeah. So it's tremendous, tremendously bad. Do need to remind you that the other ones are again Arise, both sides chattel slavery. I literally.
And don't forget your honorable mention.
Oh yeah, my honorable mention. My honorable mention is myself for starting Fallout 4 again 2 weeks before the Gorgies. Oops.
Hooray!
So if you've been listening to this episode and going, boy, they're bringing up Fallout 4 a lot. That's kind of weird. It's my fault. What's up? Hi, it's me. How's everybody?
We've been referencing a lot of Fallout, unfortunately.
I sure hope that Sarah's impropriety here didn't motivate the rest of the members of this specific recording to go, you know what, I should play Fallout 4.
Now again, as I mentioned in the last episode, to be fair, I had the urge literally 2 days before Sarah started playing Fallout 4. I was just better at ignoring it.
Thanks.
I tried hard to switch over to New Vegas and my computer just doesn't let me, so...
Yeah.
I held out valiantly for about a week, and at a certain point, I'm like, I don't know, I'm not playing anything else, I guess I'll...
I had to look, and I was like, okay, I can finish Frontiers. I can't finish anything else for the Gorgies. So I might as well just play Fallout.
That's what happened, is I finished, I went and did Neon White. I did that in like the last month. And then I like tried World of Horror and like bounced off of it. World of Horror is a bit older, but I really only got around to it just recently. It's not very good. I'm just bringing it up because I don't think we're ever going to talk about it, but I want to stay in my piece. World of Horror is not a very good video game.
Yeah.
And then I despaired because I still have I wanted to do Citizen Sleeper and Pentiment before we got here, and I just wasn't feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, what if instead of sitting around twiddling my thumbs, I just played Fallout 4 again?
What if you got on the Fallout 4 train with all of your friends who are also on the Fallout 4 train? It's me. It's my fault.
And I ended up solving the issue that made me quit, like when we last did our last Fallout playthrough, which was crazy. Because last time I didn't really do a full playthrough and did a retrospective, and it's because I had a ton of like latency, like game latency, that was like really making it control and feel like shit, and I just couldn't do anything about it, and I wasn't sure what was happening. And I found out that the cause of it was fact that I had the official HD texture pack, which is just a poorly optimized piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And the second I revoked that from my account and changed literally nothing else about my load order, that game runs like butter.
Yeah. So it's like, the problem is that I was like, I'm going to play Neon White and I'm going to play Signalis before the Gorgies.
That didn't happen.
And then you didn't.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Girls do not apologize.
You'll play them after the Gorgies, and then if you need to relitigate any of your votes, you'll just do it on an unrelated episode.
That's correct. That's
Maybe just own
correct.
up to it. It's fine. Don't worry.
Here, let me put it like this way. Whenever you get around to Neon White or Signalis, I would be happy to do full-length Gorges of either.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Game.
I want to do Neon White, so we'll probably do an episode on Neon White.
Good.
Great. So yeah, that's although I didn't bring this up when talking about them killing off Varl. Needs to be said before we do any voting. One, Varl has like been your buddy since the very beginning of the first game, and he's like a cool guy who's always been like who's always been on Aloy's friend, because like Aloy's whole like thing is that she was like outcast from a village that has like a tradition of like extremely outcast. Like if you're exiled from the tribe, you don't exist, right? Like you're not even allowed to be spoken to. You know, it's like a traditional kind of thing. But then like as soon as Aloy shows up in town to like do this kind of ritual thing to earn her place in the tribe for realies, Varl has basically been on her side like the whole time, and like his sister was on her side the whole time, and his sister dies at the beginning of the game, the first game. And you're just like, okay, well that sucks. And then they kill Varl at the end of Horizon Forbidden West. And I need to point out, because it's so cliche, that I was just like, when it was happening in the moment, I was just like, well, you could tell it's a game made by Swedish people who are finding new and unique ways to be racist. Anyways, Varl's the only character who dies in Horizon Forbidden West, and he's a black guy. Yeah,
I'm noticing he is in fact a very black guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
He's also the only major character who dies in Horizon Forbidden West. That's crazy. Made by a bunch of Swedes.
Weird.
Europeans are always finding new, exciting ways to be racist. So, you know.
Wait, no, it's only the white woman's allowed to have dreadlocks.
Only the white woman's allowed to have dreadlocks and survive. Yeah. So, you know, that's cool. Not great. It's not great. Anyways, I'm voting for Tales of Arise. I know I didn't spend that long talking about it, but it's the one that makes me the angriest. Actually.
Both sides in Channel Slaver is really bad.
It's really bad.
All right, so here's my take. Killing off Varl and killing off Xenos are literary concepts. You kill off a major character for drama and for the plot to move forward in a way, right?
Sure.
It's not good. I don't think it's particularly good writing, but it's writing, right?
Sometimes it's good writing, and sometimes it's Varl or Xenos, where it's literally for no reason except to hurt you.
Sometimes it's you have a inherent bias because you're strongly attached to that character, and so you think it's bullshit. Where someone else might be like, no, that was a satisfying conclusion to this character's arc, right? Pokemon selling 10 million copies is its Pokemon. It was going to happen eventually, right?
It was going to happen either way.
The second most popular console, like in modern, it's also the only one that's available right now.
That game could have been like literally the worst Pokemon game ever made. It still would have sold 10 million copies the first day.
Right.
Yeah. There is a character in Tales of Arise who has been both a slave and a soldier. And he looks at both of those things and he goes, "These are equal."
Yeah, there is an absolutely insane part where Alphen is talking about his backs. So Alphen's whole deal is that he was basically in cryosleep for 200 years, right? And when he wakes up, he's now like a member of like the slave caste. And he literally says at one point that there's no difference between his lord that he served as a mercenary, who paid him and like treated him like an employee, versus being a literal slave in an actual labor camp in a for real volcano. There's no difference between those two things at all.
And he's the protagonist.
He's the main character.
I am inclined here to also vote for both sides in chattel slavery.
Thank you.
Because, so, here's my thing. Pokemon, yeah, it's bad that a game that is clearly rushed out and shit sold so well and it's going to encourage worse behavior, but also, like, that Pokemon game's good, so it's fine. I'd rather it have sold 10 million copies than Legends Arceus, because even though Legends Arceus looks better, I wouldn't want them to get the idea that that's the kind of Pokemon game that I want going forward, because that game's kind of weird. And then killing off Aural and killing off Xenos are both decisions that are probably in poor taste, and I think probably reduce the quality of those stories overall. However, both sides in chattel slavery is literally poisonous.
Yeah. That's correct.
Like, you present that to someone who doesn't have enough critical thinking skills, and they go, yeah, I guess, being a cop is exactly the same as being a slave.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're definitely equal.
Also needs to be said that Tales of Arise is also the best-selling Tales game.
Yeah.
I mean, that hurts more than Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Those two things.
Scarlet and Violet probably deserves to be the best-selling Pokemon game. Mm-hmm. Arise probably does not deserve to be the best-selling Tales game.
No.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit.
I'm also obviously voting for it, but like the exact same reasons we talked about just now and also during the episode itself. It's just kind of leaves a really bad taste in my mouth that people think that that's good.
You just really went with that plot line, huh?
You really went with that plot line. Okay.
And no one at any point in development went, Are we sure about this one, Chief? This one seems like, I don't know, maybe if we're writing this from, say, a culture that does not have a particularly strong legacy of chattel slavery and contending with the things about chattel slavery, that maybe we're at risk of, saying a bunch of shit that sucks, and maybe we should, like, I don't know, consult with anyone with any kind of cultural background in dealing with the ramifications of chattel slavery. Hey. And then instead of doing that, they just made Tales of Arise.
That's correct.
Hey, this whole thing about the slave camps and whatnot we have in Arise seems familiar. Maybe didn't we do a game that was about slavery?
Oh yeah,
and how bad it was.
And also, we must not also glaze over the fact that Tales of Arise is also extremely derivative. It's just like a bunch of Tales ideas stapled together, but not done as well. Anyways,
here's the thing. I think it's gotta be bad to be a Tales game where I'm sitting here like, I think David Cage's Detroit Beyond Human might have a more nuanced take on the chattel slavery thing.
That is literally correct. Yes, actually.
I think one of the most toxic games to come out in the last half decade, Detroit Beyond Become Human. I called it Beyond Human the first time.
Beyond Two Souls.
Yeah, Beyond Two Humans. Wait a minute, that's a different game.
Hold on. There's so many bad games being mixed up here.
but I think it takes a really bad take on chattel slavery to go, I think the David Cage game is probably the one that's closer to being legitimate.
Here's the thing, and then we're gonna move on to Ben's, but this also needs to be pointed out. So, in Tales of Arise, there is a character who really, really, her name is Renwell, who really, really does not like the slave owner race, right? The people who have owned her and her family for her whole life. She really doesn't like them, and she's pretty mean to them. She
is the last of her mage line because the slave race killed them all.
That's right, the slave owning race, they killed them all. So she has like a kind of Chuatari pan lunch situation where she's racist against the people because they're racist. Right. And the game treats her as being unreasonable. Which is a thing that I will say for David Cage, he never did with his android characters in fucking Detroit. It's like, no, even David Cage is like, no, the androids have legitimate grievances, right?
The androids who hate humans are probably correct to do so, is the whole thing of that game. And again, crazy to think of that game as being a better touchstone for discussing the socio-cultural ripples of chattel slavery than literally anything else, to say nothing of Tales of Arise.
Stunning. Absolutely stunning. Anyways, we're moving on.
Yes.
Last but certainly not least is Ben's category.
Ben's closure award for the best culmination of your formative years.
Oh, nice.
We had a lot of things come out this year that was basically just learning from everything that came before it.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of that one image that's like Return to Tradition. It's that horrible image of the kids in the room with all the toys and the bad plate of spaghetti and meatballs. We've had we've been having that for a lot of years, but there's a real cheap spaghetti and meatballs smell off of this year in a way that I will describe as affectionate, even if I don't necessarily feel affectionately about it.
Because these things aren't necessarily remakes or ports or anything. These are just, we have taken the lessons from the previous things, and in our new iteration we have adapted those lessons.
Right.
We've decided that the Breath of the Wild approach was probably smart in the grand scheme of things, and we want to take the Breath of the Wild approach to revisiting all these things that were classic for some reason.
So, my nominees are Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie.
Correct.
Sonic Frontiers. Return to Monkey Island, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, and every reference to an old Final Fantasy game in FF14.
Okay.
That's fair.
Right.
That's fair.
All right.
Now, we've talked a lot about each of these except for Dragon Ball Xenoverse, because it's a surprise nomination that I just picked up on a whim this year, a couple months ago. And I just wanted to go back to it because, they really did just cram every single bit of Dragon Ball possible into one game and be like, yeah, we can do whatever we want with this franchise now.
Right.
I really appreciate poisoning you both with Xenoverse 2 several years back, because it made it that much easier to poison Sara for Final Fantasy XIV.
That's correct. You laid the groundwork.
I knew I had an in, and I just was waiting for the little drip face to get me back in.
It is
okay. So what if Xenos is dead forever in FF14, but the trade-off is that Xenoverse 3 comes out and he is just in it with zero explanation?
Then I will play that game exclusively and will not play Final Fantasy XIV ever again.
Are you kidding me? Because that means that he would, 1, be playable, and 2, since it's a Dragon Ball game, there's a lot of PvP, which means I would get to fight that fucker constantly.
He shows up shirtless, and he's like, well, they wanted to make me wear this t-shirt that said HFIL on it, and then I tried to put it on, and it just shredded to pieces, and then they said, you're free to go.
Has anyone here ever watched Team 4 Star's Hiffle series?
Yeah.
No.
It is their spin-off about the villains in Hiffle in a a reform therapy group.
Great.
And the idea of Xenos being a part of the Hiffle group,
Being in a baddie support group, yeah.
I'm just suggesting this image because I know at least 3 of the 4 people in here are relishing the image of Xenos Galvus in like tiny exercise shorts and a ringer tag.
That's correct.
I mean, yeah, that's part of it for sure.
See, no, Ben says that, and what I immediately think too is Xenos in a ripped up flannel shirt and suspenders going, "I am not bad," and that's good.
Great.
Also, we have to come to terms with the fact that Xenos and Goku would be best friends immediately.
Sure.
Sadly, because he can't be my best friend anymore. Fuck off. No, don't even make me think about it.
Unfortunately, Xenos also gets roped into raising Goku's children.
You mean you also just want to fight the strongest person around with no other consequences to your actions?
What do you mean your children just sit at home and you don't do anything with them? I don't like the sound of that.
Oh, God.
Goku, have you considered engaging with them on their various hobbies? They might appreciate it.
Now he does.
No.
He engages with Goten. Goten likes to fight and train. Goten's stupid like him.
I sure hope Goten doesn't have any other interests outside fighting or training.
No, he doesn't. He's bone stupid. It's fine.
Okay, he gets it from somewhere.
Good for him.
You gotta vote.
We gotta vote.
Okay, for me personally, I have to give it to Rise.
Mm-hmm.
Because unlike Monkey Island, Ninja Turtles actually was my childhood growing up.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, like, the idea of Rise being, like, the culmination of every Ninja Turtle series that came before it, and, like, exploring the different avenues of those characters, I have to give it to Rise.
Sure. I am also going to vote for Rise because it's just good. And I don't even have, like, any kind of childhood attachment to the TMNT the way other people do. It's just really good, is the thing.
So, I'm also throwing it in for Rise because not only was I am the same bitch I have always been, and was a weird little fujoshi about it, because I always really liked the turtles.
That's fair.
And had my own little gecko. We're going too deep into this, but just, I've always been the same bitch I have always been. And I love Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I'm going to give it to Sonic Frontiers. Mostly on technicality, if it's the only one of these that I actually cared about during my formative years.
Sure. Well, that only leaves one thing. Game of the Year, which is Final Fantasy XIV. Get out.
Yes.
We're done. It's Game of the Year.
No nominations, no categories. Besides 14, what is your all's Game of the Year?
This one might be surprising based on the amount of awards it literally won at this show and how I am the one who put the nomination in for each of the categories that it won. But my Game of the Year is Signalis.
Okay.
It is a extremely, like, for a 9-hour game, extremely well-told story, extremely rock-solid aesthetic. It's really intuitive. It is the best classic survival horror that has come out in years. It's a wonderful send-up to those, and, like, literally every component of it that you look at and think, well, I like the Silent Hill, or I like the android lesbians, or I like the alien look. It is just the best that it gets in any single specific category you could want for it, and the complete picture of it is something that really resonates with me and is going to live in my head rent-free for a very long time.
I mean, mine literally is Final Fantasy XIV, but I am going to give a shout out to another game, like Saturn said, of something that lives in your head rent-free that didn't even come up in this, but that's because, like, I didn't have anywhere to put it. I played Who's Lila this year, like a couple months ago, and I am still thinking about Who's Lila. It's extremely good. It is a little cheap, $12, I think, Steam horror game that's about controlling your facial expressions while being accused of murdering one of your classmates. And it's extremely weird and very, like, it uses the whole 1-bit art style really well. And is, like, it kind of toes the line of being very Lynchian, feels very Twin Peaksy. And it's just really, like, I was really surprised by how good it was toward the end. And yeah, it's just like Final Fantasy XIV is like my game of the year, obviously, because of just, like, I mean, like, you know, we've talked extensively about the various things it did to my brain and how I'll never beat the same. But, like, Who's Lila's really good, so I think that deserves an honorable mention. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I think for my honorable mention, first off, I'm mad that we're talking about Fallout 4 instead of New Vegas, but that's neither here nor there.
Sorry.
Unfortunately, Fallout 4 is easier to play. And
how much easier to mod, I'm sorry.
It's okay, I understand. But in actuality, my honorable mention is going to Warframe, because it's been several years since I last played it. And the new war came out late last year, early this year, kind of like in chunks. Mm-hmm. And really reinvigorated my love for why I liked that game in particular.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful, wonderful set pieces, completely new gameplay. And for the first time in a long time, I actually had people to play it with and reminded myself, like, oh yeah, there is a lot of things to like about Warframe besides its gameplay, because I get to talk about it with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been playing it quite a bit with Oats too, and again, I haven't touched Warframe in probably like 4 or 5 years before I picked it back up this year. And let me tell you, I got back in hard. That game is, like, for all of its warts, and Warframe has a lot of them.
It is a like of a creature.
It is a just really it puts some oil on the old gears. It scratches. That is a game that, like, it doesn't hit the shack building itch, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
but it activates the flow neurons in my brain the same way that I think shack building does for you, Sarah.
Okay.
Where it's just like, I play it and it's easy to, like, just do that for like 4 or 5 or 6 hours at a time. Go, what the fuck? Wait,
yeah, where did the time go? How's it already 2 a.m.?
I didn't even mean to start playing this.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Sometimes Saturn and I will just, like, go like, hey, let's, like, boot it up together. And then, like, 6 hours later, we're both like, I'm kind of tired. What time? Oh.
Oh, no!
I've been there.
It's just one of those kinds of games that, like, has always been that way for me. But instead of just being the same old, being a live service game that it is, every now and then it'll decide to do something different. And the amount of different things that it has done since I last played is enough that it just feels like a completely fucking new game for me, and I'm so into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what should have been added to your man-made horrors beyond your comprehension? I guess I'm going to give it another
What's that?
honorable mention. Mothered. Speaking of lo-fi,
Oh yeah.
lo-fi horror games, because, like, my whole thing this year ended up being that I played a lot of lo-fi horror games that are not, like,
I noticed,
really, like,
I've been super into it.
they're not really, like, anything to, like, really talk about in depth, but I just like them a lot. And Mothered is one of them. Iron Lung is on the list. Look forward to me talking about that in a few weeks. That game is made by David Szymanski, the guy who made Dusk, so I'm bound by blood to talk about it.
Is he the guy who just released Chop Goblins, or is that a different guy?
I think, no, David Szymanski is also the guy who did Chop Goblins. That's correct.
I think about that Steam review constantly, which is that games ask difficult questions. Dave Szymanski asks, what if there were Chop Goblins?
I am, like I said, I have to play everything he makes. I'm sorry. I played the game where you shoot the squirrels and staple them to each other. So, you know.
I love you, Sarah.
I'm glad because, like, that's who I am. So yeah, Mothered is another extremely contender for just, like,
It didn't make it on man-made horrors, but I will tell you, if I did a category that was games that you play to understand the character that is Pippa from our Masks game, Mothered is absolutely on
really
there.
high up that
That's
list.
horrifying.
However, for what it's worth, a lot of the other games I mentioned, Eggman from Sonic Frontiers is obviously on there. Also, I'll be real, most of the other shit on Man-Made Horrors is also on the Pippa list, including Psionic Soviet Anthrax. And also the Abnormalities from Lobotomy Corporation.
Right.
So my game of the year
Yes.
is Live Alive. We didn't mention it a lot on this list, but
It came up several times early.
yeah, but
It was dominating like the first hour of our book, but it has fallen off in the later category.
Live Alive is a JRPG that you play, and then you look at Deltarune and Undertale and go, "Oh, I get it now."
Yeah, absolutely.
Extremely.
You also understand where things like Chrono Trigger, or later Final Fantasies, or even as far as Octopath Traveler, you go, "Oh, I get it. That's where this came from. It came from this exact idea." Fantastic storytelling in it. Great use of a battle system. One of my favorite bits, and I didn't really talk about this when I was doing our roundups, but like one of my favorite things that Live Alive does is that it does the the thing in Final Fantasy, like older Final Fantasy games, where like your characters are these kind of little 1x2 little chibi sprite guys, and then the boss you fight is this like 12-foot Goliath of a man.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like posed like a Greco-Roman statue.
Yeah.
Live Alive has that, but because you're on like a 10x10 grid, you take up 1 square and the boss takes up 3x3. And that will affect like your position-based attacks. Like
that's fun.
You just have to hit one of their corners.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
I think one of my other favorite things is that Live Alive's entire system is incredibly like rigid, super like nothing about it changes from game to game concerning combat. But it is such a versatile, incredibly rigid combat system that it feels different with each playable character.
They are
unbelievably different, despite the fact that it is literally like, okay, you are on a grid, you can only attack like a certain amount of squares around you, and if you have a spell, you can only attack a certain amount of spells around you. And yet, despite that, there's a lot of little tricks to each and every one of them. Like some of them have reaction moves, some of them learn moves if they see it in combat. A couple of them will pick things up through gameplay, and some learn them through leveling up. Moves have elements to them. Positioning can change because you have a like all of the moves have like a charging system, so you can't just immediately use them. They have to charge before they can go off, so you have to worry about the position of the enemies because they might move around. It's great. It's just so good. It's
incredible. There's so much versatility in your incredibly limited options.
It is the Breath of the Wild combat.
Yeah. You have like 5 moves, but you can do so much with those 5 moves. Absolutely incredible JRPG. The fact that it's fully voiced continues to blow me away. Like, what an amazing thing to add to a game. And it, like, I've mentioned it before, but it gives me very personal high hopes that a Chrono Trigger remake is around the corner.
Please, God, please.
I think it's really a testament to how much faith they put in that remake, that they're like, this is the Live Alive remake, a game that like, and I'm gonna be kind, like, I don't want to sound like I'm rude to Live Live. I don't have a particular opinion about it, but a game that only freaks know about and that does not necessarily have anything resembling market traction,
Right.
and they're like, no, we're gonna do a whole voice. We're gonna do a whole voice dub for this.
We're gonna put so much effort into this game.
I'm happy about it because no one ever wants to do the work anymore, and I'm thrilled they're just like, oh yeah, let's just fucking dub this whole game.
A cult of a cult classic that I genuinely think only got as much traction as it did because Toby Fox mentioned it enough times.
Right.
Yeah,
literally,
exactly.
yeah.
That's it.
People know about it because it's the one Toby Fox. I would frankly not be surprised if that was a significant contributor in their decision to put a bunch of effort into remaking this game.
Well, we know it kind of is because one of the modes, the Edo Japan one, it had some of its story changed ever so slightly for the very end part, depending on whether or not you did a pacifist or genocide run.
Great.
Yeah.
So, like, there you go.
There you go.
I would absolutely adore, like, the flow being Octopath Traveler, Live Alive Remake, Octopath Traveler 2 gives me a lot of hope for Octopath Traveler 2.
Right.
That it'll be good instead of not good.
Right. That would be
I'm
nice.
willing, yeah.
And a Chrono Trigger remake. Please, God,
Yes.
please.
Please, God, please. Please, God, please.
Please,
'Cause then
God,
you know-
please.
You know what that means? You know what that means? They might give Chrono Cross another pass.
They might do it
Please.
again.
Do it again.
I have a question.
Yes.
Because I haven't listened to a whole lot of Gorgies before this, to be perfectly honest.
That's
I
fair.
apologize. But so I know we usually end the episode with like a fuck it, like
Mhm.
you know, someone who needs to go fuck themselves. Do we want to end the episode with our anti-game of the year nomination? Which is the game that we played this year that we wished we didn't.
Yeah.
I think we can do that. So let me get through. Do we have anyone have any final thoughts before we call it?
No.
Okay.
I'm just really happy that I tricked Sarah into spending an entire year on Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah, I guess my final thought of the year, to wrap it up and to be a little sappy, so just hold on.
Okay.
This, despite the fact that it did kind of destroy my video game schedule, this year of playing Final Fantasy with people has probably been the most fun I've had with a video game in like 10 years, right?
Oh yeah,
like,
for sure.
Yeah.
I don't play multiplayer games. I still don't really play multiplayer games except for Final Fantasy XIV. I've never been an MMO person, but I genuinely think that Final Fantasy XIV is like one of the best video game experiences I've ever had, just because of like playing it with other people and like being able to tell these stories of being like, yeah I asked my friends at 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday to come help me do the final days, and everybody dropped everything to come do it with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally, I think the only reason it wasn't 8 out of 8 people from the Gorge just because Ben wasn't there yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We had
And
one
Ben,
random-
I have to stress, I'm pretty sure Ben was available, but just was not there yet.
Yeah.
Literally, that's it.
Yeah. And like Ben was just a little bit behind me, and it was just like I was able to hop in and say, I am at the final days, somebody come help me, and like instantly had a full call of people like willing to help with that, right?
It is because of FF14 that I am actually legitimately considering Transformers Reactivate.
Yeah, absolutely. A game to play with other friends. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't before, but now I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've played a multiplayer game before. I can play another one. It's totally fine. Like, I don't know. It's fun. It's insanely fun. It's so much it's satisfying. It really scratches that socialization itch in my brain that I have.
I wouldn't have been able to reconnect with some of the people that I got back into because of Final Fantasy XIV, Saturn included. So
yeah, I was gonna say, like, even if Signalis is still my game of the year, Final Fantasy XIV is also the thing that's like, for the three of you, I have talked to the three of you more this year than I probably have in the entirety of our friendship before this year.
Yeah.
there has been a lot of hanging out and jawing, mostly centered around Final Fantasy XIV, and it's been a significant, at risk of being too personal on the internet, it's been a significant boon for my just going about and living day to day in this world.
Absolutely.
To be able to depend on the company of good friends and to socialize over that shared bond that we all have.
Right.
So, even if I'm not giving it my Game of the Year nom, FF14 is still one of the most significant things I've played this year, just by dint of the fact that I cannot escape it.
Exactly, you can't get away from it. Sorry.
even when I'm not playing Final Fantasy XIV, I cannot get away from Final Fantasy XIV.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best.
So, it's been an extremely fun and exciting experience from the word go. So, I'm just very touched by all the help that we've gotten playing it, the many people who have been willing to just very patiently put up with me being extremely bad at this video game for a good 4.5 months until something finally clicked.
You picked it up so much quicker than I did.
And that is because of the help of friends, of course, right?
Yeah.
That's despite the fact that it did obliterate my video game playing schedule. Oh well. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
We got all next year to play a whole bunch of other games.
My God, there's so many.
And we also got all next year to play more Final Fantasy XIV.
Because literally the beginning of next year, 6.3 drops. So please look forward to us still talking about more Final Fantasy XIV, baby.
And again, the schedule is such that 6.3 is going to drop immediately. Like the first 2 weeks of January or whatever. Mm-hmm. The schedule as holds suggests that we'll be getting 6.4 in April, May, and then 6.5 sometime later next year. So we're still going to be playing FF14 all of next year.
Oh yeah. But it won't be nearly as intensive because Sarah and I don't have a 200 or a 300 hour RPG to get through.
That's exactly correct.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. Thank you to Adventuria for use of our background music. You can follow me on Twitter at thegorgepodcast. You can follow Sarah at radioinactivity. Oats, where can we find you?
Twitter no longer exists. I don't really use Tumblr. You can find me on the Discord, Gorge's Discord. Link in the description.
Yeah. Saturn, where can we find you?
You can find me at The Future Rules on Tumblr. Twitter, so long as it continues to exist, knock on wood, and cohost.org, where I don't currently post too much, but whenever Twitter does finally bite the big one, I will probably be posting there primarily, because it's a good website that people I like and know run.
And if you want to keep listening to Sarah and Saturn talk, you can listen to their other podcast.
Currently just myself, while Saturn is on hiatus until the beginning of next year-ish.
And by next year, I mean in a couple of weeks, not a year from now.
Right.
I have work to catch up on, so I haven't wanted to commit too much extra time to recording. But you can still hear us both on that one here and there. I heard y'all have been playing Pig Smoke again recently.
We're playing Pig Smoke, that's right. Me and Saturn are in another podcast called Big Gay Nerds, where me, Saturn, and some other cool people get together and we play tabletop games. Right now we're playing Pig Smoke, a game where you play as professors at a magical college. It's an extremely good system. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, that's Big Gay Nerds wherever you get your podcasts and wherever you get your social media. Thanks.
All right.
Okay. Anti-game of the year. The game you regret playing this year.
I'm gonna lead. I think my anti-game. I feel weird saying this because I think I espoused this game on a Gorgies some amount of years ago. I think my anti-game of the year might be Destiny 2.
Oh no!
It's not like it suddenly got bad, though it kind of did. It mostly just feels like everything that has come out specifically inside of this year has been something that kind of makes me regret the fact that I have put thousands of hours into that game, and as a result, I have barely touched this game at all this year. And that feels really bad, because I really like Destiny 2, and I just feel no desire. I feel like the time I spent on it this year, like the whatever amount of hundreds of hours I put into it this year, was just genuinely thrown down a hole.
No.
Shame.
Oats?
It's a toss-up for me between Ghost Runner, which, despite its really good gameplay, thank you for the recommendation, Saturn, it is just BioShock. It's just like beat for beat, it is just the first BioShock.
Oh.
At no point...
I have to stress, I've never heard anything good about that game. That recommendation was based solely on you told me about the exact kind of game you want. I'm like, I think that game is exactly what you wanted. I know literally nothing about it aside from that.
So the gameplay was fantastic. It is just literally like... line for line, it is just like I even got a "Would you kindly" out of that. I was so bored with the plot.
Damn, that's a shame.
That sucks.
The level design is so fantastic, though. So I did get I got a good 3 or 4 hours of gameplay out of it, with the volume turned off.
That makes sense.
And then so it's that and. Unfortunately, and I'm really sorry to say it, I fucking hate playing Fallout 4 right now. I am ever since switching over to a new computer with a solid state drive, I cannot figure out what the hell Bethesda has done to make that game unplayable. But
they fucked that game up real bad.
They did something bad.
I have the same issue, even with the FPS fix, which is supposed to fix it. My load times on a fucking Samsung 950 or whatever, a relatively recent model of SSD. My load times on that are fucking disgusting.
And there's just something weird about how my game will crash to desktop the second I enter combat. Consistently, constantly.
Insane.
You are just
everything you found that is supposed to be a fix for that just does not hold up.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. But anyway, I hate you, Fallout 4. We are officially we are blood enemies now.
I'm excited to see whether Starfield next year is either our game of the year collectively or our anti-game of the year collectively.
I am really
It'll be both.
It could very well be both, yeah.
I'm much like Watanabe's dad being both the best dad and the worst dad.
Splinter.
That's right. Watanabe's dad was both the worst dad and the biggest failure.
Yeah.
Much like Splinter's dad being both the best dad and the worst dad. Starfield will probably be both our game of the year and our anti-game.
My money's on it being worst game and worst failure, like Watanabe's dad. But we'll see.
But simultaneously the game of the year.
Right.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. What if it's good though? Right.
What if it's good though?
I'm not counting on it being good. I'm just willing to bet there's going to be a lot of it, and I'm going to have some fucking opinions about every single part of it.
Yeah. One of our categories next year will be "It was good though."
Oh yeah, isn't that Transformers game slated for next year too?
That's correct. What if it's good though? My anti-game is obvious. It's Tales of Arise. I literally wish I could remove that game from my memory.
I haven't said this about Detroit or about the Hush Hush Man.
Sure.
I'm sorry I made you play Tales of Arise for content.
It's so... Because, to me, Detroit is entertainingly bad and had some... It had, some things in it that were compelling, mostly, the actors doing a good job kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And the Bye Bye Man was just... Or, no, not the Bye Bye Man. The Quiet Man, that's the one.
Yeah.
The Kwai Man was... It was hilarious. I mean, it was
that game is so fucked up.
It was like a fever dream, but it was so funny that it looped around being good. And I don't think I was the one playing that one. So I think it was you playing that one.
It was me. I was playing the Shushy Man.
Yeah, so it wasn't too bad, you know.
There is a trend in the last 3-4 years of just European extremely public indie projects that for some reason are about a guy who wants to fuck either his sister, his mother, or his sister mother.
That's correct.
It's very strange.
Very odd. But Tales of Arise is legitimately a game I wish I could just not acknowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I didn't have to see it. I wish I didn't have to think about it, but I do, because I am like the Tales person, and so people ask me questions about it. So I'm like forced to give an answer. And like even more so, the like deep dread I feel from the fact that Arise is the best-selling Tales game, and it's so bad. It's like, oh, it bodes ill. It bodes extremely ill. The fact that like a lot of morons on Reddit are like in love with this game, despite it being so like small and stupid and simplistic in comparison to like it's the other games in the franchise, is just like.
I am glad that I am seeing the general opinion shift more towards, no, this is trash.
It's trash.
Go play Berseria instead.
Go play Berseria. All I can say is go play Berseria. It's probably like one of the most emotionally affecting games I've ever played in my life, in a good way, versus like the abject, like, I can't remember the last time I played a video game and was literally miserable while playing it. Like toward the end of it, I think I messaged Ben, was like, I can't do this anymore. I have to finish the last like 4.5 hours on YouTube because I hate playing this game. Like, I literally hated playing every second of Tales of Arise. I think it's a bad video game. I think it's cheap and ugly and written by a child, and it has no good characters, and most importantly of all, it is unforgivably heterosexual in every single way.
The thing that really concerns me is just how many people just think it's the best of the bunch.
Stunning.
Because that implies that all of these really bad choices are things that they enjoy, which bodes ill for
the rest of the franchise. Absolutely. The future.
Well, those people saying it's the best have not played any other Tales game, because there's no conceivable way you could think of any this is better than any of them.
Also, I just think it bodes ill for our culture that people are just like,
oh, absolutely, 100%.
Ramping up that.
And this isn't even
like that. I have something was pointed out to me that does restore some amount of hope for me, which is that one what's it called? Like, not Code Blue. What's that fucking? Code Blue is a different thing. What's that game they showed off?
It is Code something.
Code something or other. I remember when we were watching the VGAs, you were concerned about it being Tales Online.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was pointed out to me that it is definitely not that, so you don't have to worry. What that almost 100% certainly is Genshin Impact.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But I can irrefutably say that there's no way anyone actually thinks this is better than a previous Tales game, because Arise is also just a ripoff of every other previous Tales game, but done worse.
That's correct.
That's what you mean.
So yeah, that's my anti-game of the year. I hate Tales of Arise. But, like, with my whole body, I hate Tales of Arise.
Yeah, and that is mine as well.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Tales of Arise unambiguously wins anti-game of the year.
Fuck you, Tales of Arise.
Fuck you, Tales of Arise.
It's been 3.5 hours. Out of here.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Fuck you, Namco Bandai. Your new logo's back.
Happy New Year. Bye.